You know I can't allow you to kill him on school grounds.
But not a little, not just a little.
No, absolutely not.
Springs, are you trying to kill me on the school grounds? Who's this he we're referring to?
Having a clue.
That's a line from a fantastic film, I Love You, Beth Cooper, from 2009. Yay.
Yay!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to
Yay,
Gypsy Critics
welcome.
Podcast.
Couldn't have said it any better, writer. Thank you. I'm floundering like a fish over here. With me
Uh,
today, we have
Hello, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, the Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks, and hey, you know the deal. You'll look up Cheap Seat Critics out there on the interwebs. You'll find us on Twitter. You'll find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We got visual side, other than, I know, audio podcast, but we have visual side of YouTube and Rumble. We got a letterbox for math stuff of average graphs and what have you. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind, sharing with people or following along for updates of whatever we cover.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
A lot of words
Eh,
you're going. A lot of
oh,
gosh, I'm
what's
blanking
it
on it.
called?
Not synonyms.
English
That's
class?
I know.
No, not a synonym. No.
Adjectives.
You
That's
want to
that's the
describe the
word.
word for me?
Adjectives. That's what I'm looking
Yes,
for.
adjectives. Yes, adjectives. Uh, yeah, I guess I have. Wonderful that you said that.
Yeah, you're really trying to sell
Splendid.
something here.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll do the standard history stuff first, starting with because it'll be the largest Sprinks.
Oh, okay. Funny. If this is the largest, ha- you guys are gonna be silent. Never seen this movie before. I've heard of this movie before. Mostly because of its connection to the director who directed this, and I didn't know anyone in the film. I didn't know what the film was about. More say, I knew it was like teen movie, I guess the genre I knew. And that's about it.
Good, good. I'll go next. It's not a very extensive history. I've seen this movie twice. Once before, second for the podcast. Yeah, this was one of those YouTube free movies, and it just popped up on my recommended, and I watched it. If you ask me why I chose to watch it, I don't have an answer. I don't remember why that thumbnail enticed me. I love you, Beth Cooper. I don't know.
If I have to make a guess about what drove you to watch it, my guess is you were just bored.
That could be it. This was the time when YouTube free movies were kind of low tier movies, but now YouTube movies are big
Oh
movies.
man, it's
You know,
criminal that this was free.
what are you saying here, Sprinks?
Hey, I'm saying my side of the thing. You can say all the
He's
beauty,
laying the ground.
wonder, phantasmic you want to go about it on your end.
He's laying the
Fantastic.
groundwork for his feelings on the film.
That would pretty much be my history. Before it popped on YouTube, I never heard of it. There you go. Writer.
uh, Never heard or seen the film before the podcast. The the thumbnail or the movie poster reminded me of like Easy A, I think it was called. It kind
Oh,
of fell into that. I just assumed it would have been that kind of genre of stuff, and I'm not really into that, so I just kind of skipped over it, and I would have skipped over it, and even if I had seen this, I would have not watched it. I would not have gone out of my way to watch it. I'm a writer. I got better things to do.
What?
um,
what are you
yeah, no,
talking about?
I had no history on this before the podcast.
You can learn what not to do in situations.
Sprinks, are you saying that they did stuff wrong in this? Come on.
I'm saying I think every movie has something that could be seen as wrong and can be seen as right in form of writing, which could be a learning lesson to anyone.
Very diplomatic.
Good save, good
Good
save, brother.
response. Beautiful response. Splendid response. Those are synonyms and
Yeah,
adjectives. Uh,
but
we'll go into the facts section as long as the writer's done. Right?
yeah, I'm done. Like I said, history is pretty short on this. I have general feelings about the film, but I'll obviously get into that when we're done, when we
Yeah.
start.
So the initial budget was 18 million smackaroos. No, not that much. Pretty on par with this type of film. And the box office was 16.4 million. So they took a hit. I don't know
Oof.
how much advertising they put into this. So because usually you double the budget for the advertising, but I don't know if they put that much in.
Well, this was
But regardless, they
2009,
lost.
and a couple of us have said we've never heard of it.
Yeah,
I think we were too busy obsessing over Iron Man and Batman: The Dark Knight at that
And
point in
Kung
our
Fu
lifetime.
Panda.
Oh yeah, and Kung Fu Panda. A lot happened in those 2 years, you know.
it's true. Lots of big stuff.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Avatar
th-
happened in that era, didn't it too? And that one was
2009.
more
yeah,
like I don't
2009.
understand.
Yeah,
No, that was
Avatar
2009.
came out the year of Beth Cooper,
Well, yeah. Well,
not the
I
other way
mean, with
around.
that one, it's more like I was looking around. I'm like, why does everyone fawning over this? It's good. The CGI looks great, but you know, for more on that, check out our Avatar coverage. The Way of Water.
Are you not a fan of what was it, Sam or Jake? I don't remember his name.
Who?
Jake
Who
Sully? Is that what you're going with?
Yeah, Jake Sully, not Sam.
the fuck is Sam?
What's the actor's name?
Sam's the cashier in this movie.
Isn't the actor Sam Worthington?
That's
That's
yeah,
that's the
that
confusion.
is. I was mixing everything. So there's not too many facts in this that I found interesting or relevant. So I only got a couple here. So the creator of the book, Larry Doyle, and also wrote the screenplay for the movie, uh, had issues with the studio interfering with his vision because he had a different ending to this where Kevin and his troupe meet up at the end, and he isn't happy that they cut that out, making it like they just vanished in the story, which is true. They kind of just disappear after the whipping. So he wasn't happy with studio interference with this film, and who knows how much other stuff they interfered with in this. I have not read the book. I probably never will read the book. Ryder, would this movie encourage you to read the book?
No. They don't have. I'm sorry, I don't have any. There's no sugarcoating it. The movie was fine, but no, it didn't encourage me to
Writer,
read the book.
question: would you rather read the book that this movie's based on, or the book Christmas the Cranks is based on?
Well, I'd rather read the book this was based on.
Okay.
The
There's a
Christmas and
scale.
Cranks
Don't
book is
worry about
called
it.
Skipping Christmas for anyone who wants to read it.
Wow,
Let's
it's a
see.
Christmas story. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, for the Cranks is called Skipping Christmas.
Oh, never mind. I
No,
misunderstood.
the book is called I Love You, Beth Cooper.
Wow, that's
This is,
crazy. If Beth Cooper
That makes
book
better.
was
That makes more
Christmas
sense.
themed and they took all of it
it,
out.
they took it out. Really changed his vision at the
Hey, hey, the
studio.
big pine trees make up for the lack of Christmas trees. Okay. Actually, no. There's a Christmas tree in the cabin. I think.
Possibly.
Possibly. Yeah.
Uh, More with the studio problems. The book was written as a dark satire of common tropes in teen movies, and obviously, having watched it, they kind of go all in on the tropes, and it's not really much of a satire. They kind of adapt it into
They kind of
what
adapted
the
into a
book
teen tropey
jokes
movie.
on. Yeah, so he probably was. Larry Doyle probably wasn't very happy with this film, but I couldn't find anything on his actual thoughts of it being over as a whole. Let's see. Probably, yeah. My last fact: uh, Lauren Storm, who played Therese, one of the trio, was asked to gain weight by Chris Columbus, the director. And I tried looking for reasons, and I couldn't find reasons. Uh, I wish there was, because I think that just adds more questions.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Because
I don't know.
there's not a single joke or reference or anything to her weight in the movie.
No,
No,
the only joke around
there's
her is her
one.
intelligence and how
I think there's
promiscuous
one
she
joke
is.
about her weight when she's kind of making fun of Dennis. She's like, "Are you saying I'm fat?" I think that was the only joke that there was.
Oh, Beth said that.
Yeah. Wait, who am I mixing it up with?
The larger of the three. She
Okay.
was asked to gain the weight for
The one
the
who
role.
made the condom balloon.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
also
part
the
of
one that
the
looked right into the camera. That's
That's
game.
true.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That would be my facts, unless someone's got anything else.
I have a little bit of a fact.
All
Because
right.
I'm like, man, I recognize this director's name. Why do I recognize this director's name so much? That is because Chris Columbus has also directed Home Alone, Mrs. Doubtfire, and the first two Harry Potter movies.
This is his baby right here.
Sure. Do you want to go with
I
that?
don't know. The crazy one is comparing this to Harry Potter 1 and 2. It's so wonderful to think about.
Now, sure, you could say the budget is a situation, but
I mean, they had the original writer of the book involved. That's usually a good thing for adaptations, is having the original creator.
I mean, the original. Never mind.
I could
Look
barely
at
touch on.
Scott Pilgrim and Harry Potter.
I mean, Harry
Come on.
Potter did.
Yeah, but the writer
Say
wasn't great to
most of the
begin with on
time.
that.
Nope.
So
All right, well, we'll move to the actual coverage of the movie now. We're doing a 3-act structure, normal popcorn within the X type deal. First act being the beginning to when they escape from Kevin the first time,
Okay, so
from Dennis's house.
when they're like chasing after the car.
Yeah,
Okay.
when they're running down the street chasing the car.
All right, just making sure my notes where that is.
Yeah, put a dot, put a
Okay,
star.
it's like right here. Got it.
Perfect. And I'll shoot this to Ryder first.
all right, I'm gonna give just a general overview of my thoughts on the film to explain at least a little bit, I guess, my feelings. I subjectively absolutely hated the first act. I was not enjoying myself for the first act, but I think that switched by the time I got to the second a little bit. Um, but as much as I don't like the first act, I think it does a good job of establishing all the characters and stuff like that. So starting from the beginning, it pulls you right into Dennis's like valedictorian speech, which I think is a good idea. It establishes who he is. He's not great at public speaking, but he's worked up the courage to make a confession and point out flaws in all his peers, or what he perceives as flaws in all his peers. Um, and I think it was very. It was a bold. Obviously, it's a very uncharacteristic choice for him, as it's established in the film, but it's also something he worked up the courage to do. And we're also introduced to the concept of flashbacks very quickly, because we're getting a flashback almost immediately with him and his best friend in the school library. So you're getting a lot of groundwork very quickly about how like the pacing of the film is going to work.
Yeah, we get what, five flashbacks maybe.
Are there 5?
There's how many are you thinking?
3, 4. It's 4.
Four, four or
We have
five.
two
Yeah.
here in the opening. The we have one at the end,
I'm like,
and then
there's the one in the library. There's the one where they're kids watching the sword fight on the movie. There's the one of Beth driving a car the first time, and then there's the towel origin story.
And then
and
there's the
you missed
principal.
yeah you missed the principals.
Oh, and the principal one. That's 5.
So that's 5.
Those are the five that I know of off the top of my head. I think there might be one more. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there is. Yeah, there's a few flashbacks overall. They can be debated how well integrated they are or necessary they are, but
The only one that I think is unnecessary, obviously, is the principal one.
I mean, the towel whipping. Yeah, well, I'll save that for when it's more relevant.
Yeah.
I think the
uh,
strongest one is the first one in the library.
oh yeah, I would say that's the strongest one. If we were to rank them,
Ooh, yeah, I'd probably put that as the strongest one, but the question was necessity, so I
yeah.
mean the only one that's removable is the principal one. The rest are needed, but you can judge based on their timing about their
Uh,
relevance, I suppose.
Well, the whipping. Do we need a backstory on how he can whip a towel?
need
Yeah,
We
we
don't
do.
no
need
and
that.
want no.
Yes, we do. No, no, we do need to know that because otherwise it's just they're establishing a character trait that would otherwise not be there. It's actually
Whipping
relevant to
towels
character building.
isn't like a talent. I mean, it
Yes, but
builds
he's
up
beating
a
this
little
is
backstory, but it's not
it's
required backstory.
it's relevant and required because he's beating up 3 people who are larger than him, faster than him, with a specific talent he's practiced with his entire life. It's absolutely necessary.
I,
Because you're right, that you can't just pick up a towel and do basic shit, but the point of the backstory is to establish that he's above that.
I don't
um,
know. I think I'm just stuck on how trivial the talent is to
It is a
warrant
very trivial
the
talent.
training. To
Yeah, it's a very trivial talent. You're not gonna have me disagreeing with that. But the relevance of it is the fact that he is now better than average because it's the best thing in the world he's at, pretty much. It's the talent that allows him to overcome the 3 bullies, pretty much. So that's the relevance of that backstory.
Frank, you were going to say something?
yeah, I'm just being the movie of what it is for how I see it, of like the characters and the world and everything. I think enough is just stated at the beginning where he goes, "I've trained my whole life for this." Before it cuts to the flashback, like that's just the line that's like, "Oh yeah, he's already trained his life. He's already
Yeah,
done."
but you don't have any context for it.
No, I don't know how well he is. I don't know if that's legitimately his whole life, but it just shows practice. And then if it just cut from that to fighting and it shows him with all these skills, it's like, oh, I guess he has trained his whole life. That's the 1-2 for
Yeah.
me. It cements it
But
more
then you don't
with
lack but
showing
then
it.
you lack the backstory. There's no support for it. At that point, you're just it feels like it's a tacked on character trait.
I feel
In
like
the
it
same
should
way
have been
that
stronger if it wasn't randomly just on its own. If it showed progression.
that
Well,
is that's the whole point of the backstory. It shows progression.
In a one scene context, not throughout the entirety of the film. We don't see him like, whip a door closed or be like doing this or get commented on about it or I mean the only
But he
connection
does
is the sword fight that he watched with Dennis on TV matches the scene of the sword fight with the shadow thing later. That's the only 1-2 connection in that part of it.
yeah, I was trying to
um
think of what it requires a visual to explain things. Like Kevin and his military buddies, I wouldn't say we would need a flashback to show their military proficiency.
oh
We're told they're
they
in the
do that with their
military.
movements.
They do the actions, which is what he did with the towel. We got to see how good he is with the towel. I
Okay.
don't.
The difference between that and okay, well, for the Marines, the reason you see their actions throughout the whole movie, so, like, the fact that they're moving in unison, the fact that they're, like, following orders and stuff like that, they're doing basic military stuff the entire film. The reason that it's necessary for this is because he doesn't whip a door closed earlier in the film. That's why it's there.
Yes,
uh,
which I see as it's not worse that have the flashback of the whipping to show his life training, but I think it could have been better to show that his training in forms of life throughout the movie up to that point. So
Oh,
it's
I would
kind of
agree.
like fully
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, I would agree, but those aren't here, therefore the backstory is necessary.
Yeah, because
So
we were talking
if
about the
though if
necessity of the scene. I'm fine with it being there. I think it's totally fine being there. But in terms of necessity, I don't know if it needs to be. But you
yeah,
are
well,
swaying me with the. We get to see the military the whole time. Meanwhile, he's kind of a goofball the whole time. So this
yeah.
outlier of like being proficient in something could stand out without it.
Yeah, I guess if he had been showing for Springs, for example, if he had been shown whipping a door closed and he had been shown using that talent in other means, I would probably be on the side that the backstory wasn't necessary. But because those aren't there, the backstory is necessary. You can argue about I'm not it's also not really great with execution, I'll say. I there is a definitely a I like I said, the way that we were talking about it and that would be spread throughout the film, I do think that would be a better way to execute it. But without that, this is a necessity. So it makes it less Gary Stewish, in terms of
Yes.
acquiring character traits.
Yes, I agree with
Um,
that. It shows the visual to really aid with that to help make it less scary stew. But there's been
yeah,
examples before. I can't think of any off the top of my head, like pinpointed, but I know you've brought up before when something of a character and they say like a one line and you've brought up, oh, they said this one line, so it's good. It's in the script, it's in there, so it establishes and shows. And then we've also have instances where we've written the script for things where you go, oh, if they had this one line, it would have saved it. It would have been good, but that's not present, so it's not good. I
the
think,
the closest we get to that is the line of "I've been training for this my whole life," which is nice. But even on the one line things, then whenever I bring that up, usually it's in context of I just have nothing to work with. So while the line here gives us something, it still would be unsupported, and which would still make be a mark against the film. But the fact it has the line and then gives us the backstory to give the line context, it makes it a stronger delivery and it makes the line more worthwhile.
I agree with that, but I don't agree that it connects to needing to be a necessity.
The line or the
The
backstory.
backstory. Because he says that line after he whips all three of them in the dick.
That's true. Yes, and that would probably confuse anyone because I'm sure I was confused when he did it. I'm like, that's strange. I mean, it's not hard to whip a towel, but now he's going to duel them with towels because doing it once is fine, but now they're elevating to the level he's now going to duel them in that manner. So there is now a jump that in the skill level that needs to be shown with the backstory.
So, with what you said earlier with the Marines showing their competence of, their movements and working together in unison to have all that, does it, because of that, help their skills of towel fighting to go back at
Um,
him? Because his backstory shows that he's the best at it, but them returning fire with their own towels fighting, how does that match?
it it doesn't because they're just average at it. In the sense that they just decided to, that's just the method they chose to go about it because they're coked up, drunk, whatever. They decided, oh, that's a good idea. Let's grab the towels and go at him with it. But they're average at best because that's not what they practice in. That's not necessarily their military training.
Yeah, no, I mean that would be definitely a means of what am I looking for? Questioning, I guess, if means of training is towel whipping, because of course.
Yeah. Gotta whip you guys into shape by actually whipping each other with towels.
We jumped to the third act, so I apologize for that, Crimson, but it came up.
That's all right. It was connected to flashbacks.
Yeah, it was.
Loosely
Uh,
connected to flashbacks. Yeah, Sprinks, you got a point in the first act.
I recognized an actor, which was something. There's only one actor in this whole movie I recognize, and that's Alan Ruck, who plays Dennis's dad.
you didn't recognize the mom?
Nope,
You want to spill the beans, Ryder?
Isn't that Airbud's mom?
You're right. That is the mom in Airbud, the film we just watched
I'm
not
not
too long
surprised.
ago.
Totally not surprised.
Yeah, she got typecast.
Oh, I guess she's not memorable. Oops.
Uh,
The mom
yeah, and
was the
then
one character I recognized.
I recognize the store guy, the convenience store
He
Sam.
seemed familiar.
He's in a lot of stuff, and the actor's name is actually Sam. I don't remember his last name, but uh, you'd recognize him from this little known show Rooster Teeth produced, Crunch Time, and some other stuff they did. He was in an episode of Person of Interest. Just saying. Uh,
That's yeah, that
Freaks and
explains why you
Geeks.
know him.
Uh, he, he's an actor that's in like one episode of every show ever. He's just a one-off and everything.
Okay.
This is Dennis's dad.
No, what
Hmm?
Crimson's referring to
No,
is the gas station clerk. The one I
Oh,
recognized
got
is
it.
Dennis's dad,
I'll kiss you so hard.
who's Alan Ruck, most famously playing Cameron Fry in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, that's where I recognize him as well.
Crimson, you might
Uh,
recognize him from Cheaper by the Dozen 1. He plays the neighbor's dad, I guess.
Yeah, the birthday party.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him in a few things. Nothing clicking other than the two examples you gave, but I'm pretty sure I've seen him in a couple other things.
Because of this, I was waiting for Rich to make a Ferris Bueller quote, which I think would have been on the nose.
it's probably why he didn't make a Ferris Bueller quote.
Oh, that's true.
Because
He'd be like, "Wow, your
this is
dad really looks like what's his face from Ferris
yeah,
Bueller."
this
Yeah.
is an early 2000s film, so this is kind of in the era of the 90s and the 2000s where directors were really afraid of casting actors in roles and then referencing the roles they were cast in. Patrick Stewart tells a lot of stories about why he was, turned roles were turned down for him because he was Jean-Luc Picard for so long in Star Trek. And they're still kind of in that era where people tended to shy away from making on the nose references like that.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that, and they went with that. However, this is a late 2000s film. Still in agreement with what you're saying, but
Well, the book was late '90s.
oh, the book's okay. So based off the works of
So
the book,
the
gotcha.
source of the film did take place during that time, but obviously these
Yeah,
jokes weren't in the book. These
yeah.
were for
I
the
assume
cinema.
they would update the references in the same way that Ready Player One updated all the references in the book with its visual storytelling. Anyway,
Hmm.
Fascinating connection there.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a reference heavy movie. That one, a lot of Easter eggs to say in Ready Player One, and when comparing it to the book, as far as I remember, the book is a lot of 80s, 90s references, and then obviously the movie updates a lot of the references with like Halo, Overwatch, and things like that.
Yeah. No, you're right. It has updated. Hmm, okay.
So yeah, usually when you're adapting something that's when you're adapting a character or a material that makes a lot of references to the era it's in, a lot of the times those references are adapted for modern audiences, usually to okay effect. If they're like in if, as long as they're referencing like popular materials from those years. So it's a classic, I guess, script writing strategy for a lot of people out there.
Hmm. A point I would like to bring up, and it's more of an overarching thing, is the likelihood of head geek uh, going with the popular squad. How do you guys think they handled it, building their relationship?
Oh,
The whole group of five of them, because obviously
okay.
they all intermingle by the end.
The group of
Uh,
5, not just Dennis to Beth.
do you think they did a good, believable job to where they started and ended, or do you think there was a jump somewhere that was unreasonable, something along those lines?
I'm gonna
Um,
A
say
leap of
no,
logic.
not believable.
Can you pinpoint why?
Trying to uh trying to think. Going Beth convincing her 2 other friends to go to this party,
Mhm.
even though they said it would be funny, but then they later say they never go to a party on time, which is the next party they go to later in the night. But then that doesn't because to me Beth is like, I won't kill you because what you said was kind of sweet, and then does a strip tease in front of him, which is kind of like, here's your reward, such. And then she turns more cruel in the sense of fact of like, oh, let's go make fun of them now by going to their home.
Mhm.
So I
So you
don't
think
see
she
that.
180s there?
Yeah, it doesn't seem gradual. I don't think Beth went there to like continue flirting or teasing with him. She went
There
there to make fun because maybe that's how she convinced her two other friends to go with her.
there I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think their relationship is fine. But I think the reason I bought them going at all is because they were going to punish Kevin because he was coked up, and they talk about that of how like they were disappointed with that, and they pretty much walked out of whatever situation they were in with Kevin's group, and they thought, well, we can stop here and maybe cheer ourselves up and poke some fun. So it was a multitude of reasons that I think they showed up at Dennis. I think all of them are valid. Dennis's party.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
date
I don't.
grapey, as
Yeah,
they put it.
yeah. I don't really get. I don't really ever got the Wendy turn. It was slow and gradual because Beth is clearly not interested in him while she's there at first, um, and then interest just slowly grows over the course of the film, either through situations that they're put in or the situations Kevin's puts her in. So it's usually based on those two things.
Yeah, and for me, I think I'm leaning towards agreeing with the writer. It's a hard one to push. As I said up in the beginning, head geek, and then the popular squad. It's a hard one to build up and feel natural, but I think they did decent considering the crazy situations they kept getting thrown in. That would build up uh, relationships fairly quickly, especially with how genuine Dennis was around her. A type of
Dennis is
person she doesn't hang around with.
yeah. It their personalities are very different, and but I think it benefits, as you say, from Dennis being a he's very genuine and open about his feelings constantly, and obviously he confessed in front of the whole school. So for him, it's a lot of like I got nothing left to lose at this point. Um, and then for Beth, I thought it was very gradual. Uh, her slowly turning out to like Dennis. They do a good job with making them bond over and starting small with it.
Okay, it seems the
Yeah, and
question slightly shifted.
Well,
what?
he asked
Okay,
what was
what do you think? What the
Well, it
question
sounds
was?
like we're now on the Dennis and Beth relationship, and not the group of five. I thought the original question was the group of five working out.
oh, in general, I think
It
the group of
was.
five
We
worked out
were
fine.
piggybacking off of your example
Okay,
of Beth
okay.
and Dennis.
Yeah.
With Rich and the other two, I it's a little more of a stretch, I believe, because we don't get much of their connections except towards the ending. They laugh at his stuff, and that's pretty much the setup. They
It
don't
shows
have
them
much
having fun together
interaction.
as a group.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're in love with each other as a group or anything. At least the the dirty blonde one. I don't know their names. Um,
Therese was
yeah,
the
we
blonde one.
show
I
we
don't
show
know the
them
name of the other one.
The
bonding.
other
We
one's
show him.
Shakespearean.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one with the Shakespearean one going to be do an actor thing with Rich like that. They do form a genuine connection by the end, uh, which is fine because funny enough, a lot of teenage romances don't realize that teens don't really bond until after they have sex because that's just that's what most teens tend to do. They don't really get to know each other until after that part. So it's weird that they kind of accurately portrayed like what a lot of teen romance is in an accurate way. Even though it's supposed to be a dark comedy, tropey, like make fun of the tropes kind of movie.
Okay. I think overall the connection of Dennis and Beth believable and fine. The way how that went. I think as a group, terrible. I think the group dynamic until I guess the cabin, but to me it's too late to kind of fix it. The main problem I saw with the group was everyone's attention is on one other character in the group. So Dennis is fixated on Beth, Rich is fixated on Dennis, the two friends are on Beth, Beth is more pertained to Dennis more than her friends, and everyone it's just one connection look at everything. Sure, there's a little bit of like the flashback of Rich remembering Beth or something, but there's never a talk of Rich talking to Beth like, "Hey, where's Dennis?" or "What's going on?" or uh, crashing the car into the building, and um, Beth, goes like everyone in. It's like, "Where's Dennis?" or where, like asking where people are. No one's ever separated. The two girlfriends aren't ever apart, so there's no like one's missing and they got to work together kind of thing. It's very one to one to one, and I guess the cow tipping part is just to help strengthen the cabin later, so it's not just like out of the blue. But to me, it didn't seem like it was a group effort feel through pretty much the entirety of the film.
It sounds like a similar issue you took with Death at a Funeral. There weren't enough interplay with the characters.
Yeah, yeah, especially I mean that was a whole family, and that was still just like a one to one character thing. A lot.
Yeah, it would be worse in Death and a Funeral because they are a family. Here, they're complete strangers. So
That's true, which I can sense at the very beginning. The awkward kind of silence, or the spark and shock that Dennis got hit by a car. They just ran out of their home from bullies. They're speeding in a car, like all this shock. But even as it gradually goes along, there's not group interaction stuff a lot. I mean, a
Well,
group
yeah,
that
interaction, ha,
I
you
think
stepped in poop. Let's all laugh at you. That's not
I
really like
think
a
that
talk.
I think there is. Yeah, they did the fucking cheer dance together. They all went to the showers together until the Marines showed up. I thought they did a good job with that.
I still think that's focused on the three girls. It's like Rich is
Well,
there. They don't bring
Rich
him
ran in to
along.
join them. Yeah,
Yeah, but they didn't invite him or talk to him. He's just
yeah, but
there.
they still had fun with him. The girls were cheering with him in the background while Beth and Dennis were sharing a look.
God.
We're talking about simplistic group dynamics, and obviously there's only so much you can do in an hour and a half movie. But I think they did a fine job with it. I won't say it's the strongest ever. I mean, like, to compare apples to oranges, I mean, the Avengers group dynamic is fucking fantastic by the time the movie rolls around because it has all the backstory for its main groups and the main characters. And most of the characters get a chance to interplay off each other sequentially because the movie has the time to do that. Whereas obviously in this one you don't. So a lot of it has to be quicker and more backgroundish. So like when Beth and Dennis are sharing a look, there's times in the background where you can see Rich with the other two girls like whooping and cheering over like the fact that they were doing the cheer stuff together. And so I think the group dynamic is there. It's not the strongest I've ever seen, but it's there. I think so.
Alrighty. That didn't sway me, I'll say. I still think it's bad. And this might be because I'm comparing it to like Breakfast Club as a group dynamic of teenagers, but
That's
Yeah.
very different though, because
Oh
that
yeah.
predominantly takes place in one room. There's not much
Yeah.
outside forces in play, so they have the time to get the interactions between each other. Meanwhile, this that they're going places, they have outside forces interfering with them. They get to sit down at the campfire, the cabin, and the the locker room, I guess, because the cheer part, there's not much interaction other than the cheer, and then looks, and looks can convey a lot as well. They don't have this long period where they can just talk to each other because it's cut up with scenarios. I don't know if that's a fair
it
comparison.
helps, but I think what would help for this is if there was a talk of like the Shakespearean one to Dennis, and they had like a small chat in like one scene to help strengthen that in a group to get more comfortable being around one another, or Beth and Rich having a chat at one point or something. I think that for the group, not just it's so focused on Dennis and Beth that the movie makes it they have to be just together with no other like in betweens. It's like the universe always moving the two together in the scenes. It's like the gas station has to be the two of them, or the at the car camping, it's like the two of them. I mean, everyone picked up the like, I got to go to the bathroom, but it's still the two of them, and that bothered me.
What you're saying is would make what I think is passable and turn it into something great, but it's passable as it is. I am I'm yeah, I don't see that as inherently a bad thing.
Well,
Mostly
it's
because
also
they're the connection between Dennis and the girl who can quote Shakespeare, that's not needed for the script that we're doing. Because one of the things that you do with a script is you're trying to trim all the fat out of it. So that dynamic is not necessarily needed to push the film forward, which is why if there was scenes like that, those would probably be among the first to be on the chopping block. And while I would like those scenes in, because as you said, I would view it would make what is a passable dynamic to a great dynamic if we saw all the interplay. Um, but the absence of parts of it just doesn't necessarily make it bad.
also, I don't know if the Shakespeare thing was an actual example you were meaning or not,
I'm just
but
calling her Shakespeare girl because I actually don't know her name.
no, I mean Sprinks brought that up as an example of them talking about Shakespeare or something with Dennis. Unless you were calling her Shakespeare girl and I misheard that, Sprinks.
I'm confused on the difference of what you just asked.
You brought up it'd be nice if the girl and Dennis talked about Shakespeare. Was Did
Oh
you
yeah,
say
if
that, or were you saying
uh,
Shakespeare girl?
something like that. Like if the Shakespeare girl and Dennis talked, like if she said Shakespeare to Dennis and he picked it up and goes, "Oh, Rich might appreciate this," and then he like waves Rich over, "Hey, Rich, do you know she likes Shakespeare?" And then she's all like, "Oh no," and then distraction, something occurs. Maybe Kevin shows up, and it's like a thought, and then later on, it has a payoff to it. But that way, at least
Okay,
Shakespeare girl and Dennis had a chat.
so you did say that. I think that completely undercuts the reveal of the Shakespeare thing because we're
In an
supposed to
example like that,
believe her, yeah, to be like a dumb popular girl, and then the reveal, oh, she's a lot more than that at the end, uh, is impactful to a degree. It's not huge, but uh, it works. But if it's revealed earlier, then it totally undercuts the stuff at the end.
in that example context, yes, of Shakespeare before it to pay off later. Yeah.
And I don't consider all this entire group to be main characters, like Breakfast Club. They're all main characters. In this, it very much is Dennis, Beth, and you could argue Rich, but the other two, I wouldn't consider them on the same level. And you could say, well, it's because of the screen time provided. And sure, yeah, that's true, but that's what we have. Beth Cooper's name is in the title. He says, I love you, Beth Cooper, in the beginning. That is what this movie is. So I don't think we need all these interactions. Like Ryder said, it'd be better, sure, but I think it's totally acceptable with what we do have. But I'm sure that didn't sway you either. So we will move on to another point, being Ryder.
All right. Um, I think I brought up the principal's flashback being unnecessary. Um, I thought it was funny, but objectively, I don't think it's necessary having seen the whole film. Um, though you could argue that it's relevant if you've seen the alternate ending. Um,
Okay, you did see it. I didn't know if you got to it or not.
it's funny. I was watching it while you were giving facts and pausing it and then giving points and then going back to listening to it. um, but that's where I also gave the line of, I can't allow you to kill him on school grounds because the principal is introduced pretty much lambasts Dennis, and then he comes back later to prevent the military men from killing Dennis on school grounds, which they might have because they're coked up. I don't know. I don't know if they were coked up in that scene, but they're coked up for I think for a fair bit of the film.
Oh yeah, I don't think they were at the school, but overall, certainly. I don't know if they'd be dumb enough to literally kill him on school grounds. They were dumb enough to assault him in front of everybody, though.
Yeah, that's why you can't really be sure.
Yeah, that
uh,
is true.
I do think they're a bit inconsistent overall. The Marines, I mean.
Yeah, I can agree with that because if they really wanted to beat them up or even kill them, they could have done it, but they played with their food a lot more than that.
Yeah, which could be if I mean, which is fine, but they don't really establish that as being a core aspect of their character, or to at least Kevin's character. Kevin, I think, he's the ringleader, obviously, but
Yeah,
When Dennis is trying to open the champagne bottle and cuts his finger and starts bleeding, no one bats an eye. But when he hits himself in the head and falls over, it's like, get him ice! Oh, emergency room.
yes, that I had a problem with that. That was it's pretty bad because he wasn't just a little cut. He was like
it
gushing blood
gushed.
out. I'm like, oh, and I actually wrote in my notes. Was that a visual joke for the audience, or is this in universe?
It's also that
um,
Beth is in the room watching. It's not like she entered the room when he hit his head, and then it's like a little bit of care. It's like, oh, because she's the one who rushed to his aid. She saw him
yeah,
cut himself with the blood and everything, and just didn't care.
yeah. It. You could argue that she's busy focusing on Kevin over the phone at that time, but I agree it's a problem. Uh, like I said, that's an overall problem that I do have. It's at least Rich should care that his best friend just started gushing blood. At least Rich should be the one to like, oh shit, react a little bit more.
Now he's reacting on finding Magnum condoms for the first time in his life.
Yeah,
Well, he saw how easy uh, the blonde one was. Even water can get you doing things, not normal water. And then he dashes.
yeah. That was the humor is pretty okay. I think I'm not. I wasn't dying of laughter at any point, but it was okay. I recognized the quality of what they're doing.
Uh, with the cut finger thing, I definitely think that can be removed. I don't know why they needed two injuries associated with the drink.
Yeah, we already know Dennis is pathetic. I don't think we needed to like hammer the point home.
Yeah, and especially since someone reacted to it, it doubles down on the necessity of it. We get nothing out of it.
You got a point you
Mm.
want to jump to, Crimson? Or do you have any more to add?
Well, I'm just thinking that that's a detail I don't think I caught. I don't think I kept looking at Dennis's finger to see if it was still cut at all.
He was wrapped up and bandaged, I think.
Not for the entirety of the
Uh-huh.
movie.
No, I didn't pay attention to it either. They did a good job with the continuity of the cuts on his face and stuff.
Yes.
So maybe they did, but I did not keep track on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, point I have is a little bit on the music. A smidgen on the music. When the dad is talking to Dennis about the party balloons, uh, we get some drums that get played, like it's an animalistic nature. And I'm like, okay, that's a little amusing, fine, little detail. But then when Rich goes up to get them from the the side table or whatever, they come back up again. Like, okay, so it's a musical cue for the party balloons. So they were consistent with that.
That's funny. Uh all right, yeah. I mean, sex is a big part of coming of age and stuff like that.
I don't know if you picked that up, Sprinks. Usually you
I
get
think I did,
those
yeah.
audio stuff. Okay.
um let's see. I I actually liked Dennis's parents throughout the entirety of the film, but their introduction is pretty great. Because we get a sense of their dynamic very quickly, and we also get a sense on where they stand. Like the mother is obviously distraught that her baby boy is growing up, and the father's like, "Great, I have to worry about that. I have to worry about my son not destroying the house. They're also probably gonna have sex because it's that kind of time of the year."
Hmm.
So like the father has a very sense of like, okay, yeah, I was a kid once, you know, so advice, and then the mother's just too distraught over her baby growing up. And it was very quickly characterized. I like them.
Yeah, I really like the parents. I wish we got to see more of them. They wouldn't really have. I wouldn't have a place for them in the movie, but I really liked them when they were on screen.
I agree. It's definitely a sense of like I wish I could get more of them. I don't know how to justify more of them in the script.
Yeah. What about you, Springs?
They were fine.
Okay.
They
Yeah,
did
okay.
they did their part.
Yeah, I really liked the dad. He was very encouraging, but strict with boundaries. He wasn't just like do whatever you want, but he's like
He's like, do
things
whatever
can
you can within
happen. They
reason. Like I
probably will
know.
happen.
Yeah.
So
He was very reasonable and realistic about the whole thing, which was cool. It's very that one there was a subversion of a lot of tropes from usual teen stories where the parents are like either too strict or too nice.
yeah, I mean, even the reactions to the house at the end was mellow. They weren't freaking out, screaming, and like, how do you get a microwave on a wall? And she's like, yeah, I got to get the kitchen repaired on the phone or whatever she was doing. Just they
Well, I
feel
mean,
more
I
real
yeah.
ish because that part could be a little exaggerated in the opposite direction where most people would freak out, but
Yeah, I found that
that's to
funny
them.
because, like, the cars, the driveway across their plants and stuff like that. That's what was pulling a lot of their attention. I thought that was funny.
Mm.
Now I do think that one's more for comedy, but it still works because they were expecting something over the leaving their son, his best friend, to throw a party.
Something I did like that they did was explain Kevin popping up every time
Yeah,
because
I
that's something of a film of this caliber. I wouldn't think they would actually care to give reasons to,
yeah, I didn't know what
but they did
LoJack
every
was,
time.
but I looked it up.
I did the same thing.
Uh, yeah, no, that is actually a good thing to compliment about the film. A lot of movies don't put in the effort for their villain just showing up at random or their antagonist showing up at random. And this movie did, which credit where credit's due. Not a lot of movies do that.
Yeah, he tracked her phone, used the lo-fi thing. He was at the party because he was at the party. Everyone was at the party.
And then he could track his own car.
Yeah,
It was good. Uh, Probably a good reason as to why the alternate ending was cut out, because I would have had an
yeah.
issue if they showed up.
They didn't do that. Yeah,
Because
there was
at
no
that
other
point
way to
they
track at that point.
yeah.
Sprinks, have you seen the alternate ending?
No.
Okay, I don't want to spoil too much on it because it's gold.
I can make a
Sounds like
reference.
it.
I can make a reference to it without Sprinks understanding a thing at all. It's what
Yeah,
Miyamoto Musashi did to Satoshi Kojiro.
there you go in the audience.
Yeah, I don't
Hope you
speak
got that.
Dutch, so I have
That
no
was
clue.
Japanese.
Yeah, that's the joke.
That was the joke.
That's exactly what happened. It was hilarious.
Sprinks, how did you like Rich? Did you feel some sort of
Okay.
connection with Rich?
Funny. When he quoted Casablanca at the beginning, I wrote relatable. And I went, oh, I'm picking up what this guy does. I do that. And then the movie continued with him, and I think that's the only thing he does that I can connect to.
Are you saying you don't want to come
Have
out
to
to us,
die.
Sprinks?
One more time. The what?
Are you saying you don't want to come out to us, Sprinks? Is that? I'm
Uh,
making a
there's
making a
nothing to
joke.
come out to.
Exactly. Yeah. Um,
You
Or
referenced
yeah,
just how
two
he
movies
acts
we've
around
covered.
things and does, and it's just, ugh.
yeah.
Bleh.
I mean, the whole cow
Bleh.
tipping thing, and you got to focus on his shoes, but there's like a whole point that nothing's talked about his shoes until then. It's like he tells Dennis, "I got these new shoes," and he's on the countertop table in the kitchen, and then all the way to the cow part, and then it's a big deal. And then him being shoeless isn't. It's commented, I think, once at the party, and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's part of him. And it's like, okay, so is he to be pointed and laughed at kind of character? Is he supposed to be the sidekick to Dennis, which is how I initially thought of it? But then he kind of turns into his own character with the cabin situation, and I don't
My answer
know.
is yes. He is supposed to be all of those. He he kind of he starts out as one stereotype, and then he just kind of accumulates character traits from there.
He gets his own flashback.
Yeah, he does. He gets two flashbacks. Sword fighting with Dennis, and
Yeah, that's true.
So Crimson, if it helps at all, I'll give him a score on subjectivity of Rich right now. For
Sure,
me,
let's hear it.
4 out of 10.
Whoa. Wow. I even wrote in my notes, I wonder what Sprinks thinks of him. Because I saw a lot of you in him, mostly with the quoting, but.
Yeah, we have similar matching fashion design too.
yeah.
And I thought you would have liked
This
the
might be a
shoe thing.
controversial. Sorry,
Go
finish.
ahead.
This might be a controversial take. I think Rich is a watered out Kutrapali from uh, Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah, watered down. Yeah, he gets social cues.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Big Bang Theory, no.
Uh, Obviously, Big Bang Theory is much more comedy focused, but I they also look very similar, which is why I made the connection between Raj and Rich. But they're
Mhm.
very outside of social cues. I actually think they're very similar as characters.
Interesting comparison. Raj was probably my least favorite of the group in Big Bang.
Look, I'm not arguing that this should be everybody's subjective 10 out of 10 movie. All right, I'm just saying.
Eh, It is for some.
I'm sure somebody out there thought this movie was a 10 out
Oh,
of
I'm
10.
sure.
But yeah, Sprinks. I thought you'd have liked the shoes because it was a twofer thing. Because you like it when they do the callback references,
Yes, but
and they
there's
did
no.
that.
What's the point of it? To point and laugh at him? To make a joke? You pooped your shoes when he pooped
Well,
one
they stepped
shoe?
in poop. Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
grammatically
It was
correct.
for a joke. Well, which person said that?
I think it was either Shakespearean girl or the other one.
It was the blonde one because she's the dumb one.
Okay.
That's more on her
Oh,
character.
that's more into it. Pooped your shoes because it's out of her mouth. Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought there'd just be a stronger thing to it, to the shoes.
What would you want out of it?
I don't know. Like I'm trying to think.
Like Kung
What's
Shu, he kicked it at
no? But I'm
what's his
like, what's
face?
the use of not having shoes? How does that help in something?
Yeah, it would help with sneaking around.
I
It
guess
would have
so.
worked better after he won his towel fight. He needed to sneak away. It could have come into play there because at that point he would have not had his shoes on, and you could hear their boots or whatever coming down the hall.
Yeah, that could be something.
That'd be cool. I like that.
Not just
That would improve the film for me. Yeah.
it's not just the aspect of how useful are bare feet. It's if he brought them in the car, you'd be like, she's letting poop shoes in her car. It's more of just a logic thing than necessity.
Well, that
Finding a
part, yeah.
reason
But then
in
when
it.
they're at the party, it even shows the two girls who walk up to them at the table, like look down, like, "Oh, you're not wearing shoes." So it's still being brought up.
Well,
But
yeah, because it's weird. You would probably wonder why is he barefoot. It's good that they acknowledged it instead of ignoring a barefoot man.
okay, so it's aided for the poop joke, and then brought up after just to say that, hey, someone did notice he's shoeless.
That they kept up the continuity that he has no shoes on.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it needs to be bigger than what it is. It's just a current character, not a character trait. It's more of a character description that's currently attached to him.
I mean, they do the same thing with Dennis's scars. They reference that later. It'd be weird if
Obviously,
they
that
didn't.
yeah, obviously the scars are less, or the scars were supposed to be a less comedic situation, but ultimately the result is the same thing.
It's just an outlier in a physical description. You wouldn't normally have scars like that, you question. You wouldn't normally walk around barefoot in someone's house. You ask about it. I'll
Next thing, oh, okay, you
not.
go.
I'll move this on to writer's point.
Well, thank you. I quite liked the when the Marines get to the house and the really really like, oh, what's it called? I'm losing my words. Never mind. I'll come back to it. You go first, Crimson.
Well, it was going to be about the Marines in the house. More specifically, the nunchuck fight in the bedroom.
Okay.
He stands on the bed swinging those for 11 seconds, doing nothing, just swinging them while Rich is in the background leaving to go out the window.
That's funny.
It's it's something you don't really notice because it's in the background. It's not focused. But if it was just staring at him for 11 seconds, you'd be like, "What the heck is he doing?"
That's kind of funny, actually. Um, I'm gonna be honest. I was hoping for a little more of a dual aspect, but I get that's wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah. What could Dennis have done anyways?
Imagine if Dennis was actually really skilled with his lightsaber, though. That would have been it. Would have been a very funny, gimmicky, and interesting fight.
It would have been a little gimmicky. Did you like the name of the skeleton?
Shit, I wrote that down. I don't remember what it was.
Dr. McCoy.
Oh yeah, Dr. McCoy. It was a real skeleton too, right? They make a comment that it's supposed to be a real skeleton. I don't know.
That
Obviously,
was
it's
a
not.
living person. So could have been. I don't know. Dennis is a weird guy.
it's,
He had
it's
a
true.
CPR poster on his closet door.
He put a fucking Beth Cooper poster above his bed.
Yeah, that's also weird. Her reaction to that is very subdued. I will admit. I
yeah,
feel like there would
I
have been a bigger reaction than, huh?
yeah, I think Beth should have reacted to that. I think that wasn't my point, but that's a good point for me to jump to. Um, with what little we understand of Beth, I do think she would have reacted to that specifically, especially since the whole point of getting away from Dennis or Kevin was because his group was being stalkerish and bullish and brutish. So I think that would have been at least a red flag for her that she had to work past through over the course of the film. But it's a very uh, lackluster reaction from her with regards to that.
Especially with how he was trying to stop them from leaving, and then add that to it. Paints an interesting image.
Indeed, it does.
Crimson, what's the funny reference of McCoy?
Star Trek.
He's the doctor in Star Trek.
All right,
Yeah. All they call me is Bones.
that explains why I missed that one. Because I took it as Hank McCoy, aka Beast from the X-Men, and I'm like, I don't get this.
uh, yeah, it's a Star Trek reference.
I gotta say, I like Dennis's room though. I like the hanging X-wing, the hanging like models. Those are cool. I like those.
There were some
Reminds
Futurama
me of my room growing
figures.
up, to be honest. But
Yeah, you still got that Millennium Falcon on your wall?
no. I wish, but no.
You guys wish we would have seen Rich's father? He gets referenced a couple
No,
times.
no.
I don't think he's needed. No. We kind of
Well,
get a.
I asked if you'd like to see it.
Oh, if
I
I
don't think it's
want to see
needed.
him,
Would you have liked to have seen a scene with that instead?
uh,
or is the buildup of you probably shouldn't go home for a couple days?
I
Is
think
the
that's
buildup
enough.
better?
Yeah, I think the build up is better. I think that's enough. We don't need to see him. I don't even think I need to want to see him.
Uh, yeah, I'm on no because I think that's my favorite joke in the movie.
You shouldn't go home for a couple days.
Is
I called your father.
it's a meta joke said by Alan Ruck, who in Ferris Bueller's thing was he had to have a chat with his dad after the car crash, and we never see that conversation. So him in a new role doing the same conversation to Rich, I saw as a meta joke.
It could have been.
It very
It's
much could have
definitely
been.
similar enough to convey that. We get an interesting character trait with Beth in that she can't drive. I don't know how she passed the driver's test,
I don't know how she.
especially with the
Yeah, I don't know how
flashback.
she passed the driver's test. My best guess is she might have slept with him, but I still have no idea how she passed.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's the only way I could see it happening.
Um,
I mean, if she has an obstacle, she uh, she goes for a kiss. You know,
yeah, I gotta say, since we're talking about her inability to drive, Dennis died, hit by a car.
That looked believable.
No, he's dead.
No, not saying that.
it looked like a
No,
real hit.
it
Is
looked
what
like
he's.
a real
Oh,
hit to a stunt performer or something like that. Looked good.
oh,
It did
then
look
yes,
very
I,
good.
I I agree with that. But yeah, it looked really good. Still dead, or very very injured and unmoving.
Yeah,
I know
I
this.
think that was probably survivable, but he definitely would have had some issues.
Yeah, I mean, not to use a real life example, but one of my best
Maybe some
friends got
internal
hit by a
bleeding.
car and
I told you not to talk
put
about that.
her put him in the hospital for 6 months. What?
Just joking. Never mind.
All right,
I was making a joke that I
and but
was
your
thinking.
friend's okay now, right?
I mean, I hang out with him regularly, so yes.
There you go. I'm running a little on the lower side. How are you guys' Act One notes looking?
Well, looks like a little on the lower side too. At
Does
least
that
for
mean
Act
you're
One.
Skimming
out?
right now. Uh, Beth straddles him when he's on the ground, getting help from ice waffles on his face.
Yeah,
Was it necessary to do that? No, but
but
yay, I guess.
it's a
Hot
good
girl.
moment, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. Yeah, I think I'm good to move on. If I find anything else, it'll just be quick notes that I bring up later on.
Okay, dokie. Then we will jump to Act
Whoa, I still
Two.
got stuff.
Oh no, wait!
Oh,
I got Act One stuff. Sorry, I found one. But you
uh,
go,
uh,
Herd Springs.
okay. Strengths.
When they invited the girls inside and Rich went in for a kiss. That was really
Yeah. That
weird.
was a thing.
Going for the Italian thing, I guess. I don't know.
It
He was
looked like
hoping.
he was going for the lips and not the cheek.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, I agree, but that would have been his excuse, probably. Still weird.
Um,
Yeah.
during I know the whole like monologue beginning of Dennis's speech was like all these things he's saying are true, which is a little tacky and corny. But just going out and calling your best friend gay publicly like that as an assumption, I think that's really rude.
Well, the point is he's gay, or at least he's not straight. So it's not an assumption from him.
But it's on account of a one-time instance when they were kids, or I guess younger, could have been freshmen or whatever.
That's the context for
No.
us the audience has.
It was not just on that one occasion. We see like five of them ourselves in this movie. To think that only happened one other time is not realistic. Especially if everyone in the school thinks he's gay already, then they wouldn't have been privy to that backstory. So no.
Well, I'm not. It's not the fact that it is or isn't because we see at the end that
It's
it
rude.
is,
I agree.
but it's
And
just going out like that is rude,
yeah,
especially
I
from your
agree. It's
best
rude.
friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. It is a rude thing to do. I'm just pointing out that
I
it's
mean, yes, it
my
comes
point
out to
was that it's
be.
not an assumption from him.
But what
But
if
it is still rude.
at the end he isn't? What if it's just stuff he does?
Well, then it would be rude. This is where context in the film would matter.
Okay.
Um,
And I guess since the writer said it, I also agree it is rude. But I think his entire speech was pretty rude, so
yeah,
I wouldn't just say that one.
yeah. But we get some benefits out of it. His former bully becomes like his most down supporter out of it. And the girl who's throwing the party is still a hollow shell, I guess.
Look at all my friends.
I mean, look at her house. Is there a single photo of her parents in there? That was a
That
weird
we
That
see
we
on
see.
detail
camera. No.
I caught. I
I
don't know. Yeah,
presumably that's either her house or they just rented out the location, which is also possible.
that's weirder. That feels weirder. You think that's a
That
rented
is
out
Well,
not
location?
weird. Yeah, you can do that.
And put up
there's a
20
line that
photos of yourself in a house?
Huh?
Is it?
there's a line that refuses the rent a place, and that's with Dennis when they approach the house, saying, "This is what's her
Got it.
face's house."
Okay, yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
which then I
I,
wrote, "How does he know that?"
I was
Uh,
throwing it out there, but yeah, I assumed it was her house as well.
Yeah, what I was getting at is that every photo in the house is of her.
I guess just because she's the darling little inch who can do no wrong. Maybe I don't know. That's
yeah,
not too
we
weird
don't know
because
her family
assuming her parents.
dynamics.
Yeah, I don't know her family dynamics. Her parents might just adore her, so her pictures are everywhere.
It's not impossible. And we don't get to see the whole house either. Maybe they have the parent room.
Oh, yeah. Could be the family area.
Right. Did you have more for Act Prospects?
Yeah, the back door creaking conveniently.
Yeah, I wrote there's a ghost in the house.
And the ghost just wants to see Dennis tortured for a little while. I'm okay with that. So, yeah, no, that's an issue. Um,
It would have
my
been better to me if the door
go
was
on.
just open to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. Like they just turn and see that it's open.
Yeah.
That
It
would have
didn't
been
have to
enough.
creak and move when it's like, oh no, it's opening on the worst timing. Because if it's been open that whole time, it would have done it gradually over time. It wasn't like them going around the house or the back patio or something distributed weight on the house for the door to creak open or something stupid to that effect.
Yeah.
You also think they would have just gone through the windows? They drove up to the lawn without having issues. They
That's what I'm
smashed a
thinking. Would they
vase,
break?
threw a
It hasn't.
microwave in a
I don't
wall.
think it escalated to that point yet. I think would need to be a point where they work up to that. If he succeeded in locking the back door, then I would say they might consider doing that, seeing as they're coked up. But
Yeah.
even then, you still need a escalation to get there.
I can find it more believable for them to break a first floor window than climbing up the drain pipe and trying to get in an open window on the second floor. Well, actually, that's more
I feel the other way
believable, I
around.
think, in common concept. I think in this movie, they would definitely look up, see a window, and do their Power Ranger move, whatever, to get up there. Because that whole sequence of Power Ranger, that camera work thing, I was watching a different kind of movie in that scene.
Yeah, I thought we were watching Kamen Rider for a second. To be honest, it was
The superhero landings that they
yeah,
synced up
Yeah.
to.
yeah, the superhero landings. But what was funny is okay, so I got my 2 points now. I got my one that I remember from the house earlier, and I thought it was impressive that Beth Cooper's photo was a poster. The effort that Dennis would have had to go through to get that done is funny, but I guess
That's
it
true.
fits.
Probably something they didn't sell at the school shop.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Uh,
ooh, that'd be interesting. If Dennis to get that purchase said that's my sister, like for a family, so it's not that weird on him. Where then when they go to the gas station, she calls Dennis her brother.
What what's the interesting part?
well,
I
Oh, the
it would be a
missed
connection.
connection
something.
that it would be a connection that they both make the same excuse.
Yeah, they kind of think the same in an instance of awkwardness.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a nice little addition. I don't know how I'd fit that backstory in. I probably what, that backstory can go in place of the principal one. There we go. Done. The flashback, I guess, of
Yeah.
him getting the poster of it. My other one was since we saw the Power Ranger Common Rider move set of the Marines going down the house and superhero landing on the floor. I want to ask Rich why the fuck he went down the stupidest way possible when there was clearly platforms for him to jump down on.
For reasons, precarious
'Cause
reasons.
when he was younger, that's how he snuck into Dennis's room. I don't know.
That'd be great. Those would be great explanations if that was in the film. Yeah, my reading of that was just okay. I literally wrote in my notes, "Rich is dumb for not noticing the obvious steps he could take down."
Well, he's really into movies, and he thought, well, this would cause a great scene in a movie, so I should go this route.
Yeah,
Crimson, please tell me that's a joke.
it's a joke.
Okay. I'm like, that's
The
not a thought
joke,
process. Okay.
but
Mhm.
it could have been.
You think a thought process on Rich during this whole event is like, what can I do to make my life look more like a movie?
He won't shut up about him, so who knows? Could be his whole
It's
life. He recreated a scene of a movie in this movie.
Ooh, he
there
did, but
is
is that on
a
purpose?
It's funny because what you're saying about Rich is kind of the same thing I said about Dennis when he grabbed the toy lightsaber, and I'm like, all right, Dennis is not stupid, and he's not drunk or currently intoxicated. Maybe a concussion and a little bit of blood loss because all of that happened to him a few minutes earlier. But I never saw him standing there with a lightsaber like to face off with a bully as an in character decision he would make.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Because he's supposed to be smart in early in any case. That's kind of one of the things they establish. He's a goofball who has bad luck, but he's also happens to be really smart.
I mean, he's
This is true.
valedictorian.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and they use his intellect as like a payoff, I guess, at the end with Beth on the dock. Get some good lines out of it.
it's true. But I thought it was just weird that he waited for essentially Kevin to break into his room, and instead of just trying to run and hide, like he could have had the moment where he was standing there with the lightsaber and then realized, oh wait, this is a fucking toy.
It's made out of polycarbonate.
Me, this is a very expensive toy. um, that being said, I do. I mean, like I said, the explanation that I think the writers could have justified a bit more is the blood loss or the concussion. That would have been more than enough excuse for him not being in the right mind.
Yeah, OVL.
Now I'm done. Act one.
Frank, sorry, you done?
Looking over my notes, um, only other thing I had was the song that was being sung at the beginning of the girl on the guitar. I didn't know if that was foreshadowing or the song would be brought back in the film, which it wasn't,
Mhm.
but I guess it was a slight foreshadow of events to come.
It was brought back.
Oh, it was? Oh,
Yeah. That's
It was
that's
foreshadowing. You're right about that, Springs. I agree. It's kind of foretelling the story that's about to happen.
yeah. It goes hand
yeah.
in hand with
So
the speech.
yeah, the song that Dennis and Greg, the bully, sing while they're hugging
Oh,
is
that's
the
it?
Forget song. Yeah,
Okay.
so they're singing that one. So it does come back.
All right. I guess that's why I didn't catch it.
Yeah, because Greg, they were singing it. Yeah, I think the last thing for me for this act was just I really liked Kevin's face when he poked Dennis with the lightsaber. It doesn't really make sense for his character to me, but I really liked the face. It was really funny.
Oh, where he pushes Dennis off of the
Yeah, poking him
balcony.
with the lightsaber. Yeah, I got you. Poke.
Yeah, you can actually the justifications you can make for that is that he's coked up and wants to play with his food. So, but obviously that reaches a exaggerated point in the film where
Okay, we'll jump to Act Two, which is first Kevin escape to the second Kevin escape at what's her face's mansion,
Okay, when they
what?
leave the mansion.
Valley Wooley's mansion.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Wow. Okay, got a short amount of notes on this one.
Like a third of the movie right there. All right. Then I won't start with you first. Ryder, you can go first.
Okay. I we get more with parents. I think that the two times we see them in this act is the where their door gets ripped off of their car. No, no, they don't. Their door doesn't get ripped off. It's their rear view mirror.
Yes. This first instance is where the dad uses the phone as a vibrator.
Do you
Uh,
recognize this number? No. Yeah, telemarketer.
which is funny. I like it.
Not
It shows
sanitary.
it shows what the adults are doing while the kids are partying, um, and it's handled with a level of realism, I guess, that I quite liked.
It was an enjoyable scene.
As
Every scene
is,
with the parents I liked. Good.
yeah. And the other one for them, when Kevin's like, "All right, I'm gonna go die now," and then Beth holds him in the car and says, "Do you really want to talk to your dad while he's not in his pants?" And then they drive off. It was pretty good. Both the scenes were great.
Stupid kids.
I guess this kind of brings up a question. How unstable or crazy do you guys think Beth Cooper is?
Well, they
I
keep
think
saying
she's
she's crazy throughout the whole movie.
I think she's normal crazy, quote unquote. She's just a really bad driver.
Okay, so
I mean,
throwing
she's
Dennis's
a
phone
thrill
out the
chaser.
window.
Yeah, she
Um,
threw her own phone out the window.
yeah. Well, that's actually going to lead into one of the interesting headcanons that I have for this film. I mean, my headcanon didn't manifest into anything, but it does play into at least somewhat of what's going on with Beth over the course of the film. With high school over, Beth doesn't have anything to live for, so it adds more to the like living free kind of aspect to her character. Why she's going extra crazy tonight is because she life as she knows it is now over because she doesn't expect great things for her life. That's what kind of makes her relationship with Dennis more meaningful by the end, is because she realizes there is more to come beyond than what high school had to offer. Um, and my headcanon was I didn't know if they were gonna go this route, but I had a headcanon, or one of the things I thought they were gonna do is that Beth was planning to commit suicide at some point at the end of the film, or that was her intention. It's just a bunch of other interesting, fun things happened to her that ended up talking her out of it. That was one of my theories. Because there's a moment later on after everyone's celebrating with their cheer dance, the look that she's giving Dennis is she's tearing up and crying. Um, so I don't obviously I don't think that's what she was planning to do, but I definitely got the sense that she had a sense of, well, life as I know it's over kind of thing, which adds to the crazy aspect as to why she's crazy, I guess, quote unquote. She's just more willing to do things on instinct because she's just trying to live life to the fullest at this point.
I like that theory. There's nothing that refutes it, but they
The
never
suicide one.
address it as a thing either. Yeah, the suicide thing. I
Yeah,
think that would
that's
be
the
good. It
yeah. I left.
fits,
Yeah,
but
it
there's nothing
fits. I
addressing it.
There's nothing addressing it. It fits. I left it as a theory, so I boiled it down to what actually is in the film. Is clearly she felt that part of her life is over, and
Mm.
she's struggling with the fact that she has no idea what's going to come after and stuff like that.
Your thoughts, Springs?
I don't know. I don't know. That seems to be an extreme headcanon to go with.
The
But it,
suicide one, yes.
yeah, but it could reason her actions.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, yeah, and like I said, without the suicide headcanon that I had, or theory that I had, I still think everything else is applicable, and that she clearly thought this part of her life was it. Like she thought this part of her life was over. That still explains away her actions a lot because that's clear. That's the pretty much the perspective she gives to Dennis when they're talking at the end. She characterizes that.
Yeah, definitely
So
a back of her mind sense of hopelessness.
so I would describe her actions as crazy, but they're completely justifiable with her state of mind. Even without the suicide theory.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then there's the materialistic point of the phone as an example. Like the flip phone, there could be phone numbers on it. There could be photos, but not much more because it's a flip phone. And we don't know how new the phone is. She might have nothing on it.
Funny enough, it looks
We
like
do
the phone
know
I grew up
she
with.
isn't rich based off her college thing, so that could also be a factor of not being able to replace a phone. Who's to say how much she values the phone?
Yeah, she throws the phone away because she wants to avoid Dennis tracking her down with it, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's why she chucked it out. I think Springs used it as an example of one example of her going crazy was she chucked her own phone out the car.
Yeah, without like a
Yeah.
second thought to it or kind of an
Yeah, it was like
explanation in the moment.
yeah, it was a very instinctual thing on her part.
Um, a cool film car design I caught is there are no headrests in Beth's car in order for shots to show the backseat passengers in scenes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a very 70s car looking car because 70s cars didn't really have headrests.
Was
Am I thinking about that
was it
right?
a '70s car? No, no,
No, no,
I
I'm
just
just
Was
thought.
saying it was like a 70s
was
car.
it a Mini
Oh, okay.
Cooper?
But
That Beth owns?
I'm
Wow.
not big on cars. That's a guess.
No, I
all
don't know
right,
what kind of car it
I'll look
was,
it up.
but
Give me a second.
it wasn't. I don't think it was a Mini Cooper, but I do think it's a car that would have headrests. So I think that's a good detail that you
And the
I
reason I
noticed that.
think that when they go into Kevin's car and it does have headrests is because they already have an established scene when they're blasting Flight of the Valkyries down the road. The third guy is in the middle two seats, so the headrests don't have to remove to show him in that scene. So they kept it as a continuity when they took his car that the headrests are still in there.
It is not a
Yeah,
Mini
that'd be
Cooper.
good. Yeah, it's not a Mini Cooper. I do think this film did good with continuity. I didn't really catch continuity errors, but doesn't mean there
Oh,
weren't
I
any.
just remembered a point that I from first act.
Okay.
When Beth and her friends first arrive and they're all getting out the door, the blonde one looks right into the camera.
Well, not Beth, the other one. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's sorry. Yeah, the other blonde one, not Beth.
Therese.
Therese. Yeah, she looks right into the camera when she first gets out of the car, and they're all doing that slow mo walk towards the front door of the house because they can.
Too much, too young, too fast.
Yeah,
Man,
that
identical.
truly angelic voice, Crimson. You should have gone into singing. Yeah, no, Therese was looking right at the camera. Just a small thing.
Gotta point it out when you see it. I didn't
Gotta do
see
it.
it, but I'll take
It
your
was
word
either
for it.
she was looking right at the camera or she was because everyone else, like Beth, is looking right at the group, but it's clear she's looking at the boys behind the camera, but you can't tell it's Therese. So I feel like she's looking right into the camera.
And it's not as on the nose as when Sam, the gas station clerk, does it.
Yeah.
That was a fourth wall break.
Well, yeah, when like Sam legitimately just contemplates the kiss and then looks off to the camera side. Yeah, that was a very Deadpoolish moment because that's I'm not using Deadpool as a bad example in this instance. I'm just using him because
It was
he
like
is
She-Hulk.
no.
Sure.
I mean,
Wow.
I'm using Deadpool as an example because Deadpool straight up looks into the camera all the time, like She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I'll go with Ferris Bueller.
There you go. More appropriate.
Well, Ferris
Uh,
Bueller's narrating to the camera often, right? I remember
He's
Ferris
still
Bueller saying,
talking to an audience,
hey,
"Yeah,
what are you
especially
doing
with
here? The
the
movie's over.
the ending of the movie. Yeah.
That reminded me another show I had with Act One writer. Thank you.
you're
Man, you
welcome."
guys take
How the
notes.
heck
Where
Beth?
these
I
memories keep coming
did.
up.
Uh, Beth Cooper remembering the address. I don't know how she memorized the address because he told her quite quickly outside the school, and that was it. She clearly wasn't planning to go because she went to Kevin's party, and this was a fallback. So I don't know. I don't believe that she memorized the address,
I
and
think I
I
wrote
feel like
that
they
down
should
as
have
well.
addressed how she retained it.
Yeah.
If he handed her an invitation, I think that would fix it. Or if for some reason she had to look him up, I don't know. But
Or maybe it's just a
I
sign
can't
that
buy
Beth
it.
is Beth is smarter than she looks. That could be another aspect to. I don't know. I don't know. I also think it's a bit of a problem. If they wanted to make it seem like she's smarter than she's looked, then that just feeds into it. That would have had to have come up. So back to the act two. Back to act two.
Yes, back to Act Two. Sam, the store clerk. Uh, lucky guy? Question mark. I don't know. He
Question
probably
mark.
got fired.
If he goes caught.
I mean, those places have security cameras. I don't know if someone reviews them, but
Well, they showed a fake ID, so
then he got got a kiss. One he'll probably never forget. One that Dennis probably won't forget either. That changed his view of Beth, which I liked. I really liked him saying not Beth Cooper.
Yeah, so do I. One of my favorite aspects of the film is that he has to come to terms of who a person really is, not what their idea of a person is. It's a very one of the most poignant themes in the film that I quite enjoyed.
That's the power of a crush. You build them up, and you don't know them till you know them.
That is true.
Brooks, you got something?
Yeah, I guess to go with her psychoticness of Beth, using her teeth to open a bottle cap, and then Dennis
Oh,
doing it.
yeah.
That was just weird. And mind you, as someone who has used their teeth to open bottle caps, it's totally doable.
Yeah,
I
but you're
just
gonna
thought it
wreck your
was
teeth.
no, you don't. It's
You're
just
not
dumb
going
that
to.
it's just
It's a
dumb.
risk.
It's just indicative of Dennis being dumb. I'll there's twist off bottle caps that you don't need like a bottle cap opener for.
I mean, true.
It is not a guarantee that you'll jack your teeth up by doing that.
Yeah, it's just funny enough. It's just more of Dennis being lame.
Yeah, I think it does a good job building up their rapport between the two of them.
Yeah, they
He's
start
trying to be
from
cool. So she acknowledges it that he's trying and stuff. The tooth bit was semi amusing. I liked the
yeah,
tooth fairy reference.
yeah,
Not the spitting the tooth.
The whole living with your it's a reference to the whole living with your parents kind of thing, I think, as well. Uh,
Here, you can put it under your pillow.
Dennis has surprisingly good taste in music, and that's something that they all have in common because they all enjoy his music.
Yeah, playing the song Beth by Kiss.
Pretty on the nose.
Oh yeah. Which I don't know. Do you think he picked that song specifically just because it was called Beth?
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
I think the uh, composer or music uh, person of the film chose it. Soundtrack design.
I don't know. That could have been in the script. That could have been written in. Probably
Or
was
in the
written
book,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. That could have also been in the book because that allows us to get more Beth backstory, more grounded talking points that aren't in a hectic moment. The
Oh,
sit down
yeah.
moments that writer
Can't
usually gushes over.
yeah, I can't ignore the anime level physics that required when they first arrive at the gas station that required Dennis to see Beth's panties.
What do you mean?
Yeah, he was
Anime physics.
gushing blood out of his nose that time.
Uh,
All right, bad joke. Cool.
no, I got you. Yeah, another instance where I feel like Beth would have reacted more. We got
uh
the poster, we got that. They're
the
still building
poster
up
the poster thing I would have
stuff.
preferred a reaction for. This one, not really. I mean, she's a bad driver, and he literally did get knocked into her thighs. So that's not entirely his fault. I don't. If she had reacted, that's kind of would be more. It would have been a. It would have. She should have reacted more to the poster than this,
I agree
because
with
one of
that.
them is way creepier than the other one. Because this one's clearly an accident.
Like he stayed and stared. That's the weird part. Crack his head like a walnut. I think that's a good comment from
I
Shakespeare.
like how we're just calling her Shakespeare now. That's what she is.
Well, yeah, none of us know her name. Writer, you got a point?
Yeah, I think it's during their campfire scene. Uh, Dennis wants to know Beth Cooper's plan after graduation, and Beth Cooper kind of casually skirts the conversation because she has no plans after graduation.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of it was just it was a very subtle thing that they did with the dialogue, but it's still a very character driven conversation, which I really appreciated. But it was cool to watch her avoid the subject with pretty much subtlety. She avoids the subject, which is indicative of how much she valued, I guess, her time in high school.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Beth and Dennis's one-on-ones were good to me. The sit down moments. Obviously, we got the pier at the end or the dock, and we get this, and I think they're both pretty well done and well acted by Beth.
You can definitely see the inner
Dennis did
monologue.
serviceable,
Yeah,
but
but yeah, you can
so,
definitely see the inner monologue for Beth in a lot of these scenes. You can see what she's thinking.
yeah. Sprinks, you brought up how you weren't the biggest fan where it was primarily focused on those two. That aside, how did you like their interactions?
Of Dennis and Beth.
Yeah.
Yeah, their interactions were fine. I think a little issue I have with the film is pacing of it, and I don't know if it's immature timing of when to put in the slow conversation pieces of focused on Dennis and Beth that happen multiple times to the surroundings. There isn't. I mean, this one seems the best because it's a fade after the gas station, and there's nothing really urgent happening. and everyone else respects of like, oh, I'll go to the bathroom to give them time and space. So I think that's fine. But other times it's like a convenience sake of when to chat. So it's fine. It works.
Yeah, I don't have much notes either for this one really, but we'll go with Greg, the bully. I'm a little conflicted with Greg because he kind of feels like he was just thrown in there as like, well, we referenced him in the beginning. We should do a payoff with him, and then we'll use him for the Kevin fight.
Yeah, you'll get
Yeah,
double roundhoused.
funny enough, I wrote down all when Dennis was talking about all the people in the crowd. I realized they were all going to come up again for some reason or another.
Yep, and they did just that. And do you think they executed Greg well? I don't think so.
Um, he's serviceable. I think he doesn't. He's not a great job they did, but it's not a horrible job either. I think it was just right with true. It was just cliche. That's I just shrugged at it. I think it was fine. Um, the setup is there. It's the payoff I sort of expected with that. Because there's always, and sometimes in a coming of age story, there's always a archetype of a bully who comes around and realizes it's not his fault. And Dennis kind of told him to his face. It's fine. Like I said, I don't feel strongly negative or strongly positive about it.
Franks.
Um, it works to pay off because I think it would be weird if it wasn't there. If it's all these other characters, I mean, from the beginning is what I mean for the dialogue of uh what Dennis is saying or from his monologue. If it's goes to him, but then he never comes back, and it's like, why was he the one to just be brought up and never? If they were both removed, then it kind of plays into how would Dennis get out of that fight? Would it just be quick enough of Beth crashing the car, and that like kind of breaks him up?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah. I
in
I
that case, I
I
don't think he's
do
needed.
I do like him in concept. Like this is a again this is an archetype and concept I actually like. The bully growing past being a bully. Um and our time with Greg is very limited. So we know he either from Dennis's speech and his admission in the scene that he does have a rough life at home, and that leads to the way he treated Dennis at school. Um, and I think all that's a good setup for this scene. Um, it just kind of felt a little bit out of the blue. So there could be already some pacing issues with the scene. But like I said, I I prefer it in here because of the mentioning at the beginning. And I'm just like I said, I don't feel strongly about the execution in the sense that I don't think it was negative or positive. It's just kind of right down the middle for me.
Right,
Serviceable.
in that sense, would you find it equal of same if that character was entirely removed? So like the monologue didn't have him in it at the beginning.
If it was entirely removed, the writers would have to contrive the fight later on, but it can work.
Yeah. So like in my example of Beth just crashed in after like the first punch.
Yeah, Beth gets the benefit because like that time goes by, so it would be more contrived that she was able to do it so quickly. Um, but yeah, so it would raise up a couple issues, but he, I guess, is removable. But I do, like I said, I like his character and concept a lot because now Dennis has made a friend of him.
Yeah, my biggest issue with Greg was just his integration. It felt very lazy
Hmm.
because you had Dennis and Rich looking over the party, and Dennis like, I gotta look for a bathroom, and then in here comes Greg. It's I would have rather them meet more naturally than just like, I gotta leave Rich to do this thing now because it just felt like we
Yeah,
need to get Greg in. Let's orchestrate this quick, easy fix instead of it feeling a bit more natural to me, anyways.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's kind of what I was saying. I think it's a bit of a well, I guess I attribute it to more of a part of a pacing issue, but that's kind of part of what my issue with the scene was. They could have made it feel more natural because Greg grabs him by the collar to kind of set up a different expectation that he then subverts. So like he grabs him by the collar and drags him in, which would not be something he does with his newfound feelings for Dennis. So there are some, like I said, it's very mixed bag of a scene.
Mm. And then we have the true hero of this story, Coach Gop. I forgot what his name was.
Oh,
The
thank
gym
God,
teacher,
Coach someone or whatever.
Gym
Rop,
teach.
gym teacher, the real hero. What a scumbag!
I want a fair fight.
Got to set the ground rules.
Well, yeah, they're not on
I
school
will.
grounds.
Yeah, as contrived as the Greg meeting scene is, I do like the payoff of it, where he comes to Dennis's aid.
I agree with that. Yeah, the instant setup and payoff.
It's instant, but it's still good.
Yeah, and I do like how he still got up at the end and presumably knocked out Kevin. It took him out long enough for Dennis to run away.
Yep.
He wasn't just down and out.
Yeah.
Because if you just
Kevin.
got knocked out that way, I would be like, okay, this truly is a worthless scene.
Yeah,
But
and
he actually did help.
it's true. I agree. And obviously Kevin did not skip leg day with the two fucking roundhouse kicks.
He's a built man.
Yeah. When he's holding that champagne bottle in the house, that is one jacked arm.
Yes, it
It's
is.
true. I thought it was interesting that obviously Beth and Kevin don't have a healthy relationship, obviously, but I thought it was interesting that Kevin was getting with Valley Girl, or I presume that's what they were doing in the staircase that they were kissing.
Yeah.
That's what I took it as, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I thought it was obviously. I'm not saying it's something. I'm not saying it's justifiable, but I think it's interesting that Kevin's probably doing this out of revenge for him going to Dennis's house.
Oh, interesting.
Well, yeah, he doesn't know. Beth went to Dennis's house, so he can presume whatever he wants because of how hard Beth fought to kind of keep him.
Okay. So it's a fling out of revenge.
Yeah, I presume that's what it was born out of. That would be a logical assumption.
Okay. I saw it as this is just one of his other girlfriends.
That could work too. Like both are justifiable in showing that what's Kevin's state of mind right now because uh, Beth Cooper's off with Dennis.
Yeah. Because Kevin didn't know that they were on their way. So he
No,
didn't
he did not.
plan for it to be like staged, to be caught, for her to feel
Yeah,
bad.
Not in the moment, but the next day he'd be like, check out my new gal pal.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
But keeping on the party scene, I actually Patty and Lori, Dennis's shame. They actually set up that Kevin is cheating on Beth because they said that when they ask where Kevin is, he says he's upstairs, and we hear earlier on at some point in the party, oh, Beth always has a guest upstairs. Her always takes the man upstairs. So it's very interesting. The dialogue was really clever in setting that up. So you know that Kevin's cheating on Beth before you even see it, if you're paying enough attention.
Yeah.
it's true. I didn't really connect those
Yeah,
dots.
yeah, it reflects. Yeah, it's just like when Patty says, Kevin's upstairs. It reflects Beth's earlier line of how she likes to take men upstairs by this time in the party. It's funny. My notes after that, Crimson were like, "Fuck! I almost wish this is a poorly constructed movie because that's a damn good line."
Oh well.
It's very,
Uh,
very good dialogue for that. And like I said, the writers put effort into quite a bit of their work here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the callback stuff in this that we've referenced so far, yeah, which is nice. Like like I mentioned, the "Forget Me" song or whatever from the beginning was brought back in this party as well. They didn't need to
We're
do that, but they did it.
yeah, we're out of the forget me spray. Can you use the forget me stick? That would be sorry.
I guess we have to assume Kevin parked his car behind the building. That way, Beth couldn't have seen it when they drove up.
Well, there was valets, so I presume they took it to different parking spots, and that's why it took Beth a long time to get the car because she had to get it essentially valeted up.
Is there nothing that states that got there after them?
It's possible, but no, nothing explicit. And since
Like,
Patty and Lori are already familiar with them being there, just gonna assume that they were there ahead of them.
it's a safe assumption, but we don't know definitively one
Yeah.
way or another.
Huh. Okay. I do have a
How does
nitpick.
that affect your view?
Oh, nothing. I mean, it's either or. Because if
Okay.
they're no, it's a big enough party. I'm like, if they're there before them, it still makes sense that none of the five spotted them walking around any of the three of them.
If it was a party about 20 people, it would be an issue, but there's like hundreds of people here.
Yeah, and it's 3 floors and a backyard, and you got a lot.
It's huge.
I do have a nitpick. It's
Okay.
possible, which is why it's a nitpick and not a problem. However, it might be big enough to be a problem. When they enter the party, we're focused. The camera's stuck on Dennis and Rich for being like new to everything, and the three girls walk off on the right. So first entering the house, that'd be from the left. They
Oh,
could
and then
be
they just
going.
end up in the backyard downstairs.
Yes. Yes, they could be going up the stairs or into the next room on the left. And we're
Oh,
following Rich and Dennis walk all the way through the house on that second floor or ground floor to the back balcony overlooking the pool, where they spot them at the end on the back right side of the pool. Now, from the angle we see, there is a staircase only on the left hand side, which means in order to do that, the three girls would have had to run as soon as out of frame on the tracking the camera to the left, gone up and around to the back middle room, so behind the camera crew as they're walking, go down the stairs and out the end when they're spotted.
I'd
uh,
have to see it again because a lot of these mansions are symmetrical. At least, actually, yeah, just in general, especially with stairs. But I'd have to see it. Like I can't picture the where the stairs are that you're referencing. I
they're
get where
kind of.
everybody is in relation to each other. I could picture that, but the getting around part, I'm not picturing.
I'm in agreement with you, Springs. This is a problem. I wrote a joke about it in my notes saying, "Oh, the hell! They must have walked through the Halo teleporter on the right to end up where they were on the garden."
Yeah, it would be a little easier if they actually broke to the left hand side at the beginning, because then that would have been more of a straight shot to get to where we see them. The fact that they went to
I
the
think
right means they have to curve
legitimately,
around.
what they should have done is we should have just followed Dennis and Rich and then have Beth in the group ahead of them, and so we see them go down the stairs while they stop at the stop of the stairs to kind of take in the party because this is their first time, and then they look down and they can see the group that's there, and they would have just ended up there naturally because they ended up outside and it's the first place they went. I think that
Yeah,
would have made more sense to me, and it would still play out exactly the same way
I think
instead of
different.
just them splitting off immediately.
Yeah, it could have helped in a little bit of like an illusion help tense, but if they actually had different camera cut angles, I think would have
Like to
helped
kind
with
of
that.
imply that they were lost in the house for a
Yeah,
minute before they got outside. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
the straight shot really shows the time change or the time course of that.
Yeah. It's funny enough, example of going to a party scene and, well, getting lost in the house and making time pass by. I'm gonna pick Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim, kind of stalking Ramona throughout the party. The angles obviously help to show the passage of time outside of the text that's on the screen saying he stalked her for the rest of the party.
Oh, wasn't yes, there's something else in that though. There's a detail of a character in the background or something. Damn it. There's a I know exactly what you're talking about, but I feel like there's a character in the background who's like progressively getting more and more drunk. And like the last shot
Yep,
he's like knocked out or something.
exactly. It's great. I Scott Pilgrim is such a wonderful movie.
Not saying we'll never cover it, but we will say it's a fear Crimson has if ever we do cover it.
Hey, we talk about it so much. By the time we get to like 200 podcast episodes, we'll probably have covered the entire movie across all of our podcasts.
It's
It's
true.
it's
Then we
the
could just cut
background
together a
footage.
compilation.
Yeah, someone could cut it up and make an entire podcast off our chunks.
Yeah. If ever we do cover Scott Pilgrim directly, I've thought about it in my head. The best way to do it would be we do a 3-act structure, but it's 1 act per podcast.
Yeah, it'd be something.
Be an event.
Another detail
uh,
I caught was after was it Greg the bully has a talk with Dennis and he walks back into the party room to see Rich at the table, like getting food and everything. There's a tower of plastic glasses by the punch bowl, fully stocked, like pristine before Dennis before Rich grabs one to use for punch. It could be that no one at this party has drunk punch and they're all just drinking alcohol out of, beer bottles and whatnot, which is why they're pristine. Or there's a wait staff who are just making sure they're stocked. But I don't see a wait staff anywhere. So I don't know how fully believable it is that no one's used one of those glasses.
I'm gonna say that there are wait staff, we just don't see them. And the reason for this is because all the food tables are still full. And there is no way that there's a party this big and no one's eating food regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say a party this big, you gotta have staff for it.
yeah, there is absolutely staff. We see valets outside. I'm gonna assume there's staff.
Okay.
That's an easy assumption to make.
We just don't see any
Um,
inside.
it
Or
would be
don't
nice to see them
identify
on the
them.
inside. Yeah, it would be
Well,
nice
you
to see
also
them on
don't
the
know
inside.
if there were more cups either. That they
Yeah,
could have
like
gone through a whole stack of cups, and now they're getting to the new stack, as you
Yeah.
put it.
I didn't pay attention to people in the background if they were holding the drinkware identical or not.
oh yeah, I wasn't looking for them, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're there. And even if they're not, it's a reasonable assumption that there's wait staff because there's valets outside already. There was gigantic party this big, and there's the food tables are full by the time Dennis and Rich get there, which means there's still being food put out there.
Okay. Another thing with the food thing, did you guys catch that Dennis grabbed 4 dinner rolls for his plate?
Yeah,
No,
I did. That was the most relatable thing that he did for me.
that's what
Okay.
I do.
I love my dinner rolls.
Yes. But I saw it as a possibility that he's getting bread to weigh off the beer he had from earlier.
Oh yeah, that would work too. He would be smart enough to want to do that.
Oh, he had one beer, right?
Could be, but it's
That we
still
get to see.
he looks like
Yeah, but
someone
this is
who doesn't drink.
yeah, this is also Dennis. One beer could be enough to get him drunk
A
for
guy
one
who couldn't
time.
open a champagne bottle and choked on a bottle cap.
I lack evidence. Uh,
Um, it's a good insight, and it's a good headcanon. I like it. I just there's no evidence for it.
No. The only thing I know is that or saw was Rich was grabbing other food than dinner rolls. So there's other food present besides just that of what Dennis
Mhm.
grabbed.
well, yeah, you could see the whole table. It was full of stuff.
Yeah, and Rich is jumping around for food because he's hungry. It's a shame he didn't get to finish.
Uh, I think the car going through the wall looked pretty good. Uh, Pretty good
Dennis
practical effects there.
Cooperman, your ride is here.
That looked fine. And this could be played off of enough is given or presumed or whatever. But I found it a little fast or a little hard to believe that through the crash, everyone was already in the car. Because it
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
look like it at all.
It could be quick.
the girls could already be in there. I'm fine with that. But Rich teleports in there. I
Yeah.
don't see at any point where he got from behind because he was on the opposite side of the room. I don't see any point where he could have crossed over to get into the car within the time frame that we had.
With the car still in the
There's
wall to
also,
get in too.
yeah.
Like
There's
she
also
didn't
the
back
issue
up the
of how
car to
she
get in.
knew they were in that room.
Oh no, she didn't. She just crashed in and made the announcement on the speaker.
Yeah,
It was
that's a pretty
lucky
big
that he
building. They
was in
could
the
have been
room.
in any room, any
Yeah.
wing of the building.
Yep.
Also,
But it's also that because that car's in the front, it's the easiest room to crash into and just make the announcement, "Hey, your ride's here. Get in."
yeah, you say that two other girls could be in the back, and they could, but wasn't it earlier Beth, after noticing like Kevin cheating, she went, "I'll be back," or
She left on her
she
own.
left on her own
Yeah.
and left her two
Oh, she
friends?
didn't bring the girls with her?
No.
Oh, then yeah, I have a problem. I assume she brought the girls with her.
Yeah.
She went on her own on that one.
Because you said they could be in the back, and I guess they could. I mean, it's dark. I know no one was in the passenger seat when she crashed in.
It could be that, and like I said, this is really contriving for the film. What Beth could have done is gone to get the car pulled up by the valets, came back, grabbed the girls, then went out and then crashed the car in, which would have been extra steps. But if I were the writers, I would have just had him take the girls with her because that removes this
Yeah.
potential problem that we are now on.
So that's
Because it is a
still
problem.
that's back and forth. But the rich thing, definitely. I mean, he was being arm pinned by a dude.
Yeah, the rich thing is the rich is a certainty. The girls have some leeway, but it is a bit more of a problem if Beth didn't take her with them with her.
All right. Final calls for Act 2.
One last thing I like. I like the 1-2 setup of Rich looking at his wrist like, "Oh, time to go," without a watch, and Dennis takes it as like, "Oh, you want to know what time it is?" and puts his watch over his
But-
arm.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Good little visual gag.
Yeah, that was a funny visual
Helpful
gag. I
friend.
like that. Yeah, I guess that's technically an Act 3. So I am done. Yeah, I'm done with Act 2. The only thing else I've
Alright.
got are just like some cool quotes and stuff. But
Final act. So them escaping Kevin twice, and shockingly enough, to the end of the film. I know. The final act
Third
actually
act goes to the end.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Not me.
I'm gonna start out really strong. I love Beth and Dennis's argument in the car, and Dennis goes, "This isn't fun anymore." And then Beth responds with, "Who said it was supposed to be fun?" Which is for me was indicative of her state of mind.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
very good back and forth. I quite liked it.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I feel like all their back and forths were pretty solid.
Yeah, at that point, I wrote in my notes, "Please don't ruin Beth movie. You've done such a great job building her up as this character." And they don't. I was very pleased they didn't butcher anything about her.
She isn't just the popular girl. She's an onion.
She's an ogre.
She's a parfait.
Yes.
Gotta love Shrek, allowing us to explain characters very simply for the all of time.
It's true. I'll jump to the shower bit. We see them take their towels off when they enter the showers, and then they run out with them on. That seemed odd.
Yes.
You are correct. Yeah.
Trying to think of could there be spare towels in the shower? Probably not.
I mean,
I
if
also
this
wrote,
was
why are they in towels in the first place?
if this
They
is
got
a
out of their clothes, put towels on, took them off, went in the shower,
That is
came
kinda
out with
weird.
towels.
if this was a public the only example I have to compare this would be like a public swim center there are towels in like the gym locker rooms and stuff like that near the showers, but it'd be weird if they were in there like behind the curtains.
Yeah,
So
because just the steam and mist and whatnot would get them wet eventually.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
obviously, the point is so this they don't have to change the rating of the film. Um, but yeah, it's a continuity error that towels just kind of teleport into their hands.
Crimson, that is weirder that they got undressed to put towels on.
yeah,
Like if they wanted to
Wait,
play
they
off,
put wait did they put towels on before they went in?
yeah, they're wearing
yeah. That
towels
was the
and they take the
whole
Oh,
towels off
then
to
whole
go into the
flashing thing.
shower.
then they did that specifically because they expect the boys to join them.
But why not just be naked to begin with? Or already be in the showers, and if they wanted like the tease of, you know,
Oh
showing
yeah,
her
well
tits to
Beth is
Dennis, she could have
teasing.
just walked around the corner and we see the back of her.
Yeah, but like I said, legit, the reason that they're doing that is just so because they know the boys are going to join them, or they know that their rating of their film is not high enough. Uh,
Uh, I will say there are rumors of two different versions of this: Uh, a TV and a theatrical version.
Yes.
They they scrapped the theatrical version before it actually came out theatrically, but according to the rumors, because
Where
it hasn't come out.
it was a wider shot, right?
Yeah, you could see below the waist, but they cropped that out for the actual release. Keep the PG-13 rating.
Supposedly that was also a selling point for the movie that Beth Cooper, Hayden something, I forget the
Katy
actress's name,
Perry.
was going to be full frontal nudity, which was a selling point, which I think was also teased and hinted in interviews and press before the film.
yeah,
Well,
sex sells. I'm not
she
surprised.
played with words.
Played with words.
It was never said full frontal nudity. It was just nudity, and then people assumed that meant front. So it was implied, but never actually stated,
Okay, that was it.
and people read into it the normal way, not just seeing the back of somebody.
Yeah. I guess I'm not. I guess I don't find the towel thing is that weird. Then they were. I thought they were talking about when they. I thought you meant they shed them all before they went in. But if they went in wearing the towels, it's just because they're going to be showering with the boys.
Okay, I'll lay it again. So they do the cheer, go to the locker, take their clothes off, put on towels, show the bits, take the towels off, enter the shower, come out of the shower with towels on.
Okay, so there's still the towels. The towels just
Yeah,
appear there. Okay,
it's still the
then yeah,
teleporting
still a problem.
towels. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a weird lineup. I mean, even the same happens to Rich, right? Rich takes his towel out, goes in, and then comes out with a towel on.
Wrapped
he
around
didn't
his
go in with a
waist.
towel. Actually, he went
Yeah.
in with his boxers and took those
Yeah.
off.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, the
Do we
towels
see
just
him run
appear.
out?
The
No,
girls? Yes.
no, the girls. Yeah, Rich.
well, Rich comes out with the towel where he whips the three
Right.
of them in the dick.
Yeah. Uh.
Yeah, this it's a
Yeah.
uh,
There's some continuity issues around the towels here. I'm willing
I
to.
mean, the only thing is if there's
Just,
actual other towels behind that shower area.
it's that's just so weird.
it's possible,
But they'd be wet.
but it's still fucking weird because I've never having used gym showers and stuff like that before. It's never been that way.
Yeah, because
Um.
he turns the corner and almost immediately they're like, "Yeah!" Woo, and then they're having fun. So it implies that they right around that corner is the shower. There's not like a little
Yeah.
outlet, like an L curve to then
Yeah.
go into the showers. That's it. That wall right there.
Yeah. The shower setup is weird in general, but it's a public school, so I'm just gonna shrug at it.
Okay.
So towels are an issue. I agree. Nitpick. There we go.
We've
Valid point.
we've been in this situation before with the coverage of a film, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So I'm just curious what your two
Towels are
takes
white.
on. That's not what I'm talking about. Where's the police presence in this film?
Are they blowing up a house?
There's a crashed wall, a damaged car, and
With
multiple
a bunch of
uses of
kids
speeding.
with a bunch of kids having alcohol, I don't think anybody at the party is gonna call the police for that.
I mean, I bet the police did come, but they left
They're already
immediately.
gone.
We wouldn't have seen the police there.
Okay.
Yeah.
My only issue is the speeding on the roads, because
Yeah.
I
And
do
she's
feel
going
like
over the
that would
whole
give police
town
presence.
throughout the entirety of the
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, there's more justifiable reason for a police presence here, or a lack. I'm sorry, a more justifiable. Who words not can I? You know how it
Okay, let's
goes.
go again.
Um,
Take 2.
leave that alone. There's a more justifiable reason for why the police are not in Mr. and Mrs. Smith because you could just assume that the spy networks are doing work for them. You don't
Okay,
have
there's a
that
line
here.
that says it,
Oh yeah, there is.
but
There is a.
Sprinks didn't like that answer.
Oh yeah, well,
We
oh
already
well.
covered that.
Yeah.
And in this film, yeah, it's not as justified here because there is no line to explain away that they're evading police. The police are just not present.
Yeah, because she's not just like wacky driving out in the middle of nowhere. She is in a public area when she's doing it,
She's driving
bobbing
better
and
in
weaving
public
cars.
areas. I'll admit that she is driving slightly better. Not much, but there is a slight tidbit of an improvement.
I mean,
The scene when she says "stupid drivers" is when she's going off into the other lane, zigzagging across cars.
Oh yeah,
that
I
is
forgot about that.
kind of funny in a sense that she's driving around public areas, not crushing anything, but when they're on a straightaway in the forest with nothing around them, she hits a car.
And it just happened to be the parents.
Yep, that's
Oh,
it's
true,
funny.
but the one thing to hit, she hits.
It's
At
true.
least she didn't hit the raccoon, or maybe she should have.
She should have.
Another raccoon for the podcast.
That's how many raccoons are we up to now in
I
the
don't know. We
podcast?
cover Elf. We'll add a new one.
It's true.
Cover Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll add another one.
Maybe the best one.
Raccoon season, calling it. All right, let's.
Raccoons.
Yeah.
Ryder brought it up earlier, but it's in this act. When they finish the cheerleading bit, and Beth stops and starts to like get teary-eyed and stares off, and the music's playing a little quiet, like sad, and then we go to Denis who's watching, and like they're both kind of like both sad. If you take the music out of that, that is such a weird scene.
Dennis wasn't sad. He was smiling at her.
But then he
yeah,
was smiling at her until he realized that she was sad.
Yeah, which plays along with the music, which goes into the character. But if you, I mean, in the world, there's no music playing, so she's just sad, and Dennis isn't like, "Are you okay? You know what's wrong? Great performance," or something dumb like, "Hey, maybe I can be in the next one," like something like that. He's just watching her cry. It kind of makes sense that the people behind the other three are like, "Hey, great performance, you know, great," and ignoring her. But it's weird that she's just stopped and being sad, which I guess is fine for her, but no one to do anything about it.
Well, that's Dennis's first clue that something's not right.
and then she immediately turns around and celebrates with
Goes, let's go to
the
the
rest.
showers, yay!
Yeah, and then
So
she masks
Dennis doesn't get a
herself.
chance to do anything about it. But it's
'Cause
that visual is there for Dennis to understand what Beth's state of mind is before she hides it and says, "Let's go party more." That sort of thing.
It's weird.
I don't think it's all that weird, to be honest. The music,
we see his realization, and then it cuts to her saying shower time.
Yeah,
So
but is he like,
I just don't think there's enough time for that to really be an issue.
because he's not still mad at her, is he?
Editor. No, he's not an
yeah.
editor at that point.
Or
The
breaking
the
into
cheer
school?
cheered him up.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's not sympathetic, but it's just, it's odd that he didn't do anything.
Well, it's not like he knows the dance.
Well, no, not
That
the
was a joke.
dance. They stopped the dance. As I said, the other three are like all talking and chatting, so they're not even like paying attention to Beth. But Dennis is looking right at her.
Yeah, but like, there's nothing odd though because he doesn't get a chance to. What would you want? You wanted Dennis to say something awkward in the scene?
Not awkward. I mean, it could be awkward as like he could have been like, "Hey, maybe we'll make a new dance where I can be included," or something like pointing at Rich because he knew everything and joined in, something like that. But if she's like, "Hey," if Dennis is like, "Hey, you okay?" or "You did great," or something like to say because he can see her reaction to it, or it
I'm
wasn't
gonna be
that bad.
honest. I think we're gonna be on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think the visual storytelling of the scene is enough. We didn't need Dennis to do that. He already is concerned. This is an instance where I didn't need dialogue to communicate a character's thoughts.
He sees she sad, and then she sees him realizing that he notices, and then she leaves.
As I said, it works better with the music
I can agree with that.
because the
I mean, a
music
lot of
really
scenes do.
gives the tone of like what's happening and like the reason for silence to fit with the sadness of the two of them and what's going on. But
I,
muting that and taking it out, it's I don't.
well, I mean, okay. See, that's an unfair thing to say because you could do that to any movie and make it far worse. If I take out the Jurassic Park thing from Jurassic Park, no offense to Jurassic Park, it's going to damage the movie.
Of like when they first see the dinosaurs
Yeah, where the themes comes to full bore. It'd be
for
very weird if that was silent.
no,
Yes, yes, it would.
no, they're still in shock and awe seeing dinosaurs for the first time. Their expressions are fully met, and they're in
Oh,
shock,
There's
oh,
and then
nice.
they
So
expressions
you
met
said
talk.
so you agree
here.
the expressions are enough. Okay, so now we can go back to Beth Cooper and we can talk about how their expressions are enough.
Okay, so Dennis is not sympathetic to Beth. That's
No,
why
he
he's
is.
staying
That's conveyed in
silent.
his expression.
But he's staying silent,
He does. You're allowed to stay silent
so
and
he
convey
doesn't
your
care that
emotions and
much about
expression.
her.
No, he
That's why I'm asking if
does.
he's still
You can
mad.
both can exist simultaneously, Springs. And he doesn't have the time to say anything because they run off immediately.
But but then he follows after like the little chat with Rich, and he gets to the locker room first, and he
And then
doesn't
she
bring it up there
flashes
because
him.
because she distracts him too much.
He doesn't get the opportunity to. This is not an issue.
I think this not. I think this gives me a realization more of how kind of one-toned Dennis is.
How is he one tone
He gets
Springs?
his one-on-one with her later.
Yeah, but he doesn't go back on the reason of now for this scene. It's the cabin later, which is a talk about the future.
Talk about who she is now. Seeing her cry is what made him see her as more than just the girl that sleeps around or kisses guys at random. There's layers to her that builds up to his speech with her at the end.
I'm trying to think of how to convey this in a way. Again, maybe one of those instances where I'm saying things that aren't fully clicking of what I'm trying to say fully. So it's all this information on Beth that he withholds and has of how her character is like she's not fully what he thought she was, and he sees more of who she is over time and everything. But the way Dennis expresses his own emotions of situations is not, which could play into the nerd aspect of like cowardice. He's not sticking to his guns to get something off his chest to express. He's being distracted by other things around him that just continually are like, I'll do what Beth is doing by putting on a mask and being happy. So like I'll join her for the shower kind of thing rather than being like, hey Beth, can we step aside and talk? Because he's being
Rich talked him
distracted.
into going in the shower, though.
But
Like
that's
Rich is
after the
telling him
flash.
to, yeah, because he's still, he doesn't feel like he needs to prove anything. He's still shy about wanting to live it up. That's the whole point. That's the character arc he's going on in this film. He doesn't. He was very sheltered. This is his first time living life in a party aspect. This is all very new experiences for him. So it's not in his first instinct to just jump into the shower with them. That's something that Rich has to talk him into.
Springs, going with what Ryder and I are saying with the he doesn't have enough time before she turns and says shower. When would you have Because you're saying do it there, but if we were to exclude that, where would it go? Where would his talk go?
So are you saying it has to be after shower? Where would
I'm
it go?
setting this up for you in this scenario, whether or not you believe it or not. This is what I'm framing it. Uh, if he doesn't say it before she says time to shower, which is when you think he needs to,
Okay.
this hypothetical, he doesn't need to. We'll just go with this as a hypothetical. When would you have put it in?
When he gets to the lockers before the Flash and the two other girls go in, and he tells her, "Hey, can I talk to you?"
That's not the events that happen though, because they're all three of them are there. The girls don't leave, and then it's just those two. The girls are there. They're laughing. They're having fun. He's uncomfortable, and Beth's like, "Don't be shy," and she walks up and flashes. Would you wanted him to just to stick his hand out and be like, "Hold on, we need to talk about what just happened,"
After the
and
Flash,
kill the
no.
mood? No, I'm talking about before it too.
Yeah, I
This
just
whole
said it.
interaction's the same thing.
When he got in there.
I don't think you know his character then, because this goes into the uncomfortability he has around this situation.
Well, it's nervousness. It's also not picked up by them. They just think it's nervousness because he's looking at three naked girls. Not that he wants to talk about something, which even then afterwards he could talk to Rich about. But Rich is so on like go with the moment, carpe diem, that it feels like Rich doesn't fully give Dennis a chance to respond because he's trying to like convey him. It's like, hey, just go with it. Don't be so down in the mud. We'll just
Carpe diem,
continue.
live in the
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
which is how Dennis takes it from Rich then. So he kind of suppresses that, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'll go on." And then he's talking to quote unquote himself when Kevin shows up. He doesn't convey it to Rich either. Of like, "Hey, I think this about Beth," because Rich is talking to him.
Does he need to?
I just think it's on his mind. And then when we get to the end bit of the cabin, it's not something he focuses on of the past. He just brings up like the future of what are you thinking about for college? Where are you thinking about this? Well, I've seen this a night of you, which is a generalized overhaul of everything that's occurred and what he's seen and not pinpoint examples. So I think it's kind of slightly forgotten later on of an event, which could be because they still go through a lot before they get to the cabin of Kevin and the raccoon and all that. So it could have escaped him. But from his facial expression, as you said, writer, it seems to be an important aspect on his mind, sitting there alone at the bleachers, not moving until Rich comes up and says, "Let's go to the showers."
Yeah. And it is. I would say it is an important aspect in his mind because I think he understands at that point what Beth is feeling in the sense of why she doesn't have any prospects for the future and why it's hard for her to let all this go. And that I think that's brought up at the end. I think they handled that well because while this specific event is not brought up, it's still generalizedly included in with our discussion at the end. He's telling him that she's still going to live an amazing life and things like that.
Yes. I don't know. I guess it didn't fully convey to me. Not the cabin part, but
Okay.
the shower thing.
Mhm. Okie dokie. Are we done with this topic? I don't want to jump if they're not done with it.
Um, I probably have a couple questions for you, Springs, but I can save them for recap if you want. It's more just trying to nail down why it doesn't work for you. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with it on an objective end, but now I kind of want to focus on the more subjective part where it's like, okay, why doesn't it sit with you well in that kind of aspect?
I'm just
Because yeah,
I don't know if he's fully been broken out of his shell of Dennis. Like, is he just too cowardice or scared to confront her? Because it seems he's been doing that the entire time around Beth, especially their whole talk around the fire was getting to know her.
he's coming out of his shell. I think the whole film is about that slowly emerging from the shell. So I wouldn't say he's out of his shell completely, because he's still shy as from when Beth shows, flashes him, and he kind of doesn't want to immediately jump in and join them because he's still nervous and stuff like that. So I don't think he's out of his shell yet. But
I don't know. Like the only thing like cementing me to the reason of why he didn't speak up about his care for her in that instance, or to like be sympathetic to her being sad, is because he could still be against her of the confusion of like she kissed the gas clerk, she's more reckless than he thought, she broke into the school with a key kind of thing. So he's still like she's too different from what I think, so that could be a reason for claiming up.
um,
But I think he
no,
cared more about it, he would speak out.
I she doesn't need to though. Well, I mean, like it's brought up at the end, at least how I see it. But I mean, I think the thing that you might be missing is maybe the situational stuff. It's not a situationally a good time to bring it up because her best friends are right there, and they're obviously raring to go for the party as well. So even the opportunity where he could bring it up in the locker room to her, her best friends are right there behind her, and his best friend is a couple rows away. So at any point, that one-on-one talk could be interrupted for reasons of other characters. And if he wanted to bring it up, he'd wait for a moment for they were alone, which they eventually get by the lake.
Okay. So he wouldn't ask for a one-on-one. He has to visually see her by herself.
Well, I mean, it'd be awkward to ask for one-on-one. I'm not saying he can't do it, but this is Dennis we're talking about, who's described as an awkward character. He's more likely to talk to Beth one-on-one when she's by herself than ask her, "Hey, can you come over here? I want to talk to you about something real quick."
Okay. I just feel like the campfire bit gave them enough connection there that he would, because he knows her now more.
The
Like
the one where
having,
he loses his tooth.
yeah, like having
Okay.
that whole talk
Yeah.
and being by themselves, which establishes more of a connection between the two, I think gives enough that he would be out of his way. It's not like a first time instance of trying to get her alone.
Yeah, but remember that one's brought on by Beth, not him. Like Beth gives the girls a look and they all leave. So he didn't instigate that.
We don't see him ever ask for one-on-one time.
He just takes
Beth sets it
advantage of
up,
one-on-one time.
or a situation happens where they're just together. Even the final part at the dock, Beth sets it up. Who wants to see a sunset with me? Uh, she sets up the
Okay.
scenario, and he goes with it. So
Okay.
he's never the one to start that stuff.
That's the click that I needed. All right. The character trait of Dennis is not one to instigate a one on one. That's all on Beth. Got it.
That doesn't mean he's not sympathetic. Just he
No, it
just
just
can't
means it's not in his
engage.
character to go out and do it until the opportunity ge- presents itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
All right.
good talk.
Yeah. Good thorough one. I liked it. Um, I Crimson, do you want to jump? Because it sounded like you were ready to jump first.
uh, yeah, I was towards Rich, and we get a couple in this act that just stand out of like air quote gay moments, like the stereotype of a male cheerleader being gay. He jumps in, knows how to do it. The referencing the poncho looked cute on him and stuff. Uh, I liked the inclusions. They weren't too over the top to where it's like you got to cover your eyes of embarrassment or something. Uh, I think it was decent with how this movie portrays itself. I don't think they stood out as being bad or anything, unless someone thinks otherwise. Then I would like to hear that perspective.
um, I think I'm in agreement. I'm just running it over in my head again.
Filmmaker.
Springs.
What's the point you're trying to make here? With the gay things on Rich?
Them doing visual gags as well as just the auditory, like you're gay, no I'm not, you're gay, no I'm not. They actually have him doing stereotypical gay stuff. This is 2009. A lot of movies
stereotypical
and
gay stuff.
shows
He jumped
stuck with
in to do the
stereotypes.
cheerleader dance, so you're like, obviously that thing going on in the back of your mind, like, oh right, he's gay. Of course
Yeah.
he would know how to do that.
He
Yeah.
he walked out of Dennis's closet in his bedroom.
That's funny. I didn't connect that. Good catch, Springs. He came out of the closet. It was yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think I have any particular issue. I think the jokes were they're on the milder side for how horrible gay jokes can tend to be, but the visual gags for it were good, and so were the dialogue, funny ha bits about it, where he says something that's questionable, and everyone just gives them like, yeah, this is why everyone thinks you're gay. Look, you know.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think they did a good job with that, and it turns out he's bi by the end of the film, which is a nice little touch. But I still appreciate the jokes, I suppose.
All right. I'll jump to another thing, I suppose.
Oh,
The best dad chalice thing, the trophy. That was actually funny. I that was a good joke
I
to
didn't
me.
give him this. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't give him this. And then everyone looked at her like, oh, well, she's dumb. She does not realize what that means. What it could mean.
Means you take other people to this place.
I was like, she's got a sister somewhere.
Indeed, it does. Um, I I had to sit on the raccoon bit for a while. I didn't know what I was thinking about it for the longest time because I didn't find it funny. But I think it actually does have a place in the film. Having thought about it, uh, it gives Beth and Dennis an abnormal thing to do, which is also usually good for bonding.
Yeah, the talk they both had, I think, was good. The callback to the Lucky Underwear was semi amusing. It wasn't laugh out loud funny, but I think
The gag is
it
there
fulfilled its
for those
purpose.
who enjoy that room, who enjoy that humor.
Yeah. It's also a callback to him air drying his shirt because of the smell of fear. So you could smell the fear on him and called him a homeless man, I guess. You want to try to connect those dots.
All I learned is Dennis needs to change his deodorant.
Yeah, lots of callbacks. Oh, and on the poncho bit, I did add. I wish they had Rich say that fuchsia poncho was kind of cute instead of pink, because I think that would help with the joke more.
That he knows the exact color.
The exact color, yeah,
Though with him being gay.
yeah. I think that would help with the joke.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Bricks, you got a point.
Looking at the rest of my notes, it looks like we've already gone over the rest I have.
Yeah, we went
You
over
don't have
the.
anything at the cabin.
Not that we already have
We haven't
covered.
touched much on it. Okay.
We touched a bit on it, but we hit on the major points. I think. I quite like the gag when Rich goes off with the other two girls. That he's paying more attention to one, and the other girl gets a little pissy because like, hey, it was a threesome. You know, like I want attention too. I thought that one got me a little bit. That was amusing.
And then he continued not to acknowledge her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did okay with those three there. It didn't feel like it completely came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Obviously, everyone still wants to kind of celebrate the night the best way they can.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's well supported in the way it came up. Like it wasn't unnatural because they moved from the topic of him being gay into something else entirely.
Yeah.
But being you starting like if I'm going conversational wise when you're writing dialogue naturally, it needs to be a natural progression from when you go from A to B. And starting from the point of his interests, I think work well into him going to sleep with them as a starting point.
Yeah, he quoted like 4 movies right there.
Mhm.
Back to back.
Mm.
Sprinks, I would like to know your thoughts on The Brother.
The brother.
I forgot the name
Or
of the brother.
Beth's dead
Beth's
brother.
brother.
That's
Yeah.
dead brother. Yeah.
Um, it's a okay for the cabin part. It's a good kind of starting block of a conversation. For a little more serious note to keep away the funny ha-has. Um, for Dennis to get a little more connected to Beth and get to know her a little more on um, her family and relationship of how that all went, and try to console her or get her to a point. I don't think. I mean, he knows the brother's dead, so I don't know if it's a reason to get her in the mindset of sadness, which could connect to the earlier part of seeing that to maybe bring up a topic. I don't know if he's that manipulative or social. I doubt he is, so I'm completely throwing that to the wind that it's not that, but it's just a easier way to start a conversation for that. And best connection, even though it was so short that he died when she was 2, it still left an impact on our life. Um, and I think that's just a good part of that. I think it's horrifically terrible, the first interaction of it, when Rich and Dennis are laughing at it like a joke.
Oh, in the kitchen, the
Yeah,
early start of the film. Um,
Horrible as in just the concept, or
it made me
you
want to
think
turn the
that
movie
was
off.
poorly?
so
Okay.
poorly executed concept.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, that bleeds into why I didn't like the first half hour a lot. I wasn't a big fan of the joke either. Because obviously the joke is that Beth makes a couple morbid jokes, and so obviously the third one that she makes is about her brother being dead. They just took it as another joke, and so they pretended to laugh and made the situation more awkward.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. That joke was not. It was well constructed, just was not my tastes.
yeah, and if that's, I guess, the use of that to pay off to hear that Dennis knows of a dead brother, I guess helps in that, so it's not brought out of the blue or even guessed upon.
It does support the scene because I'm sure he does feel bad about laughing at it, realizing that it was serious. So this is an opportunity for him to address it.
Oh, that could be it to mend it. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously Dennis doesn't. If Dennis actually knew her brother was dead, I don't think he would have left.
I agree. I don't think he would have either.
Uh, and I guess on the brother topic here, I think it's a good opening to their conversation because it's uh, Rich has the more comedic half of the coin, and at the end here, where Dennis and Beth have the serious half of the coin, which I think was a good job to split it up.
I agree.
Because I
I'm
think
glad Beth and Dennis weren't like heavy comedy at all. Was there much comedy in
there's a
it?
little,
The comedy was inside the cabin.
Yeah.
yeah, there is comedy in over the movie. There's comedy between Dennis and
Oh
Beth,
yeah.
but
I
not here
mean,
at the
just at
cabin
the
at
end
all.
here.
Yeah, all the comedy was inside of the cabin, and I think that helps because it relegates the two different tones that all the characters are juggling with, and it allows Beth Cooper and Dennis to be serious without necessarily breaking the overall tone of the film by having the other comedic element completely separate from them.
I think I lean on the opposite side, where I think cutting back to the cabin for the joke keeps taking away the tone of Dennis and Beth's talk.
I would have agreed, if the character work going on in the cabin was horrible. Because even that, even though that's humorful, it still turns serious by the end. Like it's very more it's a grounded humor. So if it was very like slapsticky, I would be on your side and I would have wanted to burn the cabin stuff to the ground.
Uh, how would you have approached this, Franks? Would you have just done like the entire cabin bit first, and then just the Beth
I would have
stuff?
had half as much as the cabin stuff.
I mean, it's kind of go on that the method that I would have done is I would have done all the cabin stuff first and then cut to them outside. Like I would have just had them at the lake and just, implied that the time that it took to walk to the dock was long and they haven't been doing much up until that point. Um, what would you cut out of the cabin stuff?
I'm thinking, I don't know, the whole licking the ice cream sandwich bit, or like flirting with him on the couch kind of talk of like, or laughing at him that they're not taking his quotes seriously because he's gay, and that's the funny thing to laugh at and not what he's referencing. Um, but what you said, I think, might actually be better to keep it. So if it's Beth and Dennis walking out to go down, then it goes to everything inside up to them walking to the bed room, closing the door, then having the full serious conversation of Dennis and Beth until that's over, then cutting to the threesome aftermath.
And I honestly, the threesome aftermath, I think is serious enough. In most parts, you could intersplice that with Beth Cooper and Dennis's talk. The only jokey bit about it is that I want to I want attention too. This was a threesome. That's the only jokey part, but the rest of that's kind of serious. It's just a very toned down, like it's lighter than Beth Cooper and Dennis's talk, but it's still serious. Mm. I don't know. I don't know if I'm convinced there's tonal issues now, but I feel like I'm more on the fence than I was.
I think the cutting back to the cabin doesn't strengthen the Dennis and Beth talk as much as it could have if it was one clean take. Or not clean take, but one continuous scene.
Yeah. I think if they did all the stuff in the cabin and then they go off into the room, cut away, and then have Dennis's talk, at least the first half of it, and they want to cut back to the cabin at all, it would still be a lighter tone, but I guess it wouldn't be as drastic if it was just them in the bed having their after sex talk.
Yeah. And
Um,
I guess to connect this to the earlier of the campfire and that talk cut in with the cow tipping, that to me fits more because it's like their first interaction talk, so it's not as serious and it's still like awkward. So I think that works a lot better for that instance. It's not doesn't have to be all cow tipping and then all them talking around the fire. I think
yeah.
that pacing works far better.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I guess on my scale for writing pacing, I guess it would be more editing. Come down to editing for me on this aspect, because I think a lot of the stuff here is still worthwhile, but I would probably move some words around to strengthen, I guess, the main takeaways.
I think if I was reading that in a book, I'd be annoyed.
Oh yeah, like cutting from between scenes. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
be really annoyed with that. Like I said, I would
Well,
recognize the
books
quality of
don't
work.
usually do that, right? They
No, they
usually
don't.
jump back and forth like that. It's usually like a
they
chapter
usually yeah
thing.
they usually do that if both plots are intertwined to one another, and they go between
Yeah.
paragraphs of connection. But
Yeah. Yeah. Using a book example, I would be annoyed as well. Sticking with this, I don't know if I'm annoyed by it, but I can recognize it as a problem because I think all the content is still worthwhile. I would probably just rearrange things around to strengthen it. So I guess I'm going to use my terminology from earlier. It's passable as it is right now, but it could be great.
yeah, to me, it's a pacing thing.
All right.
Yeah,
So
we kind
Sprinks,
of
you
talked
said you
over you
were
there, Crimson. Did you
no.
have any? Yeah.
Um, I didn't find any issues with the cutting back, so that's why I wasn't really talking. I don't know much. I didn't see issues with it, so I don't have much to say on it.
Right.
Sprinks, you said you were out of your notes, yeah?
I have one left.
All right. You want to say it now, or are you holding it for
No, I can say it
your?
now. When
Okay.
Beth and Dennis are like kissing goodbye and hug and everything, the background of Rich and the two girls by the car, Rich is just having a conversation with the Shakespeare girl about the collar on his shirt, which is a little distracting. It's like this
Hmm.
heartfelt goodbye, and they're still like acting and doing stuff in the background as a distraction in the scene. I think if they had the camera shots to not show them, I mean, the camera could have been on the opposite end of Dennis, so Beth's outline, like her character,
So her
covers up,
outline blocks them out,
blocks
but
them
you can
out in the
still see
background.
them doing something in the back. Yeah.
You can still see little bits of like the left and right of her, like they're still present, so they didn't vanish or waiting in the car for some reason, but it's more focused on Beth and Dennis saying goodbye.
Yeah, I don't want to say on that one. They didn't distract me, so I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
didn't show
shrugging at that
that.
one too. Unfortunately, I can see that potentially being a problem, but I wasn't bothered by it since their conversation.
Yeah, to me
I don't
that's
know.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
certainly a
they were
nitpick.
very quiet.
Yeah,
yeah.
they
Yeah.
made like no noise, but it's still visual in this shot when Beth's talking to Dennis.
So
Oh, so
qualified nitpick. Sure.
them just having a conversation in the background, whether or not it's quiet or not, is the issue for you.
Well, it's visual movement and so it's like catching my eye attention when I should be focused on Beth's emotion to Dennis.
Okay, yeah, that was a different issue than I thought you were saying. Okay. Um,
Just saying, if the camera was on the other side of it to block them out, I think that would have been more of a focus of the two characters. It doesn't always have. It didn't have to be that full side shot of when she kisses him.
I think maybe if they blurred them a little bit of depth perception, that might solve it a little bit for you, maybe. Because I do like that they're there. It shows that everyone's together still and grounds everybody. So cropping them out or somewhat hiding them behind a different character, I think hiding them behind Beth or whatever that example you provided would look more distracting than anything.
I get
Just
okay. Then
on
I guess
shot
another way is
composition alone.
just have them quiet, watching the two of them say goodbye.
Then it gets into weird territory where they're just watching them.
But they're just waiting because Beth's got to drive her friends away.
People see like I can't really take issue with that because people watch lovers say goodbye to each other all the time in a bunch of other movies, and I never take issue with it. So I wouldn't take issue with it there or here. It would just be friends waiting on each other because that's what friends do.
Well, I just don't think it's within Rich to do that. He's a chatterbox. He talks all the time. I think he would be talking to them or Shakespeare. Things. But as you say, Springt, it is a nitpick. It doesn't really
Yeah, it doesn't break the
change
movie in
anything.
any way or the scene. It's just a visual distraction.
All right, writer, you got anything else?
Yeah. I'll focus on Beth and Dennis's talk. We kind of touched on a little bit of it. One of the things I do like about it is he talks about why when the notes in the car, he talks about why he made the choice to give the speech the way he did. It gives it kind of what his state of mind was because he, in comparison to Beth, his like I got the rest of my life ahead of me, and I this was still an important part of shaping me, that sort of thing. Um, and he talked, but going back to the conversation at the lake, I like that. I think Beth talks about how high school was her peak, like that was um I get that was just like what the best she could expect out of life for herself. Um, and obviously, then they talk about the different versions of the life that they lived up into that point a little bit. Where Dennis is obviously planning to go off to be a great doctor and cure cancer, as Beth puts it. and how he made all his high school memories last night because of Beth, and she cracks a joke about how he needs to get out more.
Mhm.
I think it was well balanced between some situational humor and having the tone of serious talk as they both kind of share their perspective on the life they lived, and Beth gets some encouragement that high school isn't the end all be all for her as she thought it was. Um, yeah, Dennis does a good job. They both do in that scene.
I agree. I said that a couple times in this in
Yeah,
this one. It's good. Um,
they have a lot of great one-on-ones. To use your phrase in Crimson.
yes. I think I have 2 points left. Was that your last one, right, or you got more?
I got a couple. Let me see. Uh, uh, I like that the mom is really unchill about the obvious fact that she presumes her son had sex the previous night and stuff like that. And the dad is
Yeah.
really chill about the whole thing and is more put together. So his mom has to just kind of go inside of her, remove herself from the equation. And I like that dad's like, you're gonna get punished for this, but he's real about it. You can go say goodbye and stuff like that. I really like the parents are again really well characterized for the short amount of time they have on screen.
Well, yeah. Dennis saying whatever the punishment is, it's worth it, and then the dad's like, just don't tell your mom that. It's a good relationship.
And then my last point is I like that Rich at the end, after saying goodbye to the girls, comes out as bi. Like I think he jokingly comes out as gay to kind of play into the joke that's been made about him the entire movie, and then he switches to bi, which is most likely true at the end.
Mhm.
Good stuff. I appreciated it.
Goes full circle.
Yes.
Let's see.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. My final 2 points. One, I don't believe Beth would have the keys to the school just because she said cheerleader. Don't know if you
Yeah,
guys think otherwise.
that's a good point.
I'm gonna be
I don't
honest.
know if they'd give a student keys to the school.
I'm gonna be honest. I have no idea because I was never in a cheerleading squad. Turns out. I
Well,
also didn't play.
just conceptually giving any student
I mean, yeah, you could
the
say the
keys
same
to the
about like the
school.
the football team's quarterback. They wouldn't have keys to the
Yeah,
school.
I don't know. I've never done sports in high school. I know that there are some levels of responsibility that they are given at some point or fashion. I don't know if they got keys to the school.
Yeah,
That's a
like
I
little.
could believe if they had like a closet key to get equipment or something.
yeah, that's what I'm going. Like they know where a spare key is to like the outdoor shed, equipment or something like that. But a key to actually go into the school grounds, I think that's too much. Because what if they like misplace it?
Or abuse it like Beth did.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, it was a whole. The Beth was a model student, right? So the whole point of her was to earn the key to maybe do this at the end.
Well, they didn't say she was a model student. They said the title of head cheerleader garners a level of
That's what got
respect.
her.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a problem. I easily fixable, I think. But
Want to throw it out there.
I mean it could be.
yeah,
I think it could
Uh,
be fixable if like Rich or one of the other two girls just know where the spare is when they get to school, and that's why Beth
or
knows it or
or the gym coach that they just met at a party
dropped it.
had the keys and they
Yeah,
took it.
it lifted it. Yeah, that would be
And that
easy to
would
do.
give a reason to why the coach was there too. Since they got the key off of him.
that's probably the best example.
Yeah. You got one more point you said, Crimson?
Yes. How you guys actually felt with their goodbye? Like it isn't actually solidified as they're in a
They're
relationship.
together.
It's
Yeah.
gray.
They also
What do
have
you guys think of
all
it?
summer.
Funny enough, because of the way because of the end, I put, all right, so this is now a worse version of Lost in Translation and Before We Go. Because they don't end up together at the end.
No, but it's also Both those instances that you gave, Ryder, they're actually splitting up and don't see each other. This, they could see each other tomorrow.
Yeah, that's why I said it's a worse version.
Yeah.
Well, also the other two, you don't know if they could meet the next day. You don't know that.
I'm referring to the main characters here.
I'm going with what Spring said. We don't know that they didn't meet up again.
That's true. They could have just been like, "That's it. Not seeing you all summer. I'm going off to college."
Yeah. The only thing we
Just
know
as we,
here is at
yeah.
least in 10 years they'll see each other.
Yeah.
Well,
I
they
think
say that.
it's
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
have any.
We know.
Yeah, Beth could die in a car accident. We don't know. All right,
Uh,
another bad joke, I guess. Whew.
No, it's fine. I liked it.
but bit morbid, like a dead brother or something.
Well, Ryder brought up
Shut
her
up.
mental state situation. Oh, I get. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the mental state is obvious with regards to how she thought high school was the best part of her life, but the suicide thing is still a headcanon.
Yeah,
It's a theory,
that is
a movie theory.
a film theory.
Ouch. Too soon.
Yeah, that's why I misquoted it because I don't like Matt Pat.
Talk for a different time. All right, I'll leave it with that. And then I lied. I had one more question. This was going to be at the very end, regardless. Did you guys end up loving Beth Cooper?
Ooh, wonderful. Little side note on that. I also have a question before ratings, as well. But to answer your question, no.
No. She's too crazy for you?
No, that's not it.
No?
No, it's just my definition of love is she didn't reach it. I'll say that.
All right. Writer.
I guess I objectively like her character. I don't know if I would fall in love with her, but
Me neither. Oh, there you go. Sorry, Beth, you didn't get us this
she's
time.
very pretty. Still not my type.
All right. Briggs, you had a question
Yes.
or a point?
We've discussed before that humor and comedy is subjective to the individual. And the
Here we
objectives
go
of it.
again.
I know. So my question is, on a subjective level, individually, of the entirety of the film, how humorous or funny was the film to you?
Is this like a 1 out of 10 type
Yes.
type thing? Okay. I think in terms of comedy, 5.5, maybe 6.
Okay. 5 or
Middle
6, 6.
somewhere.
Balancing.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle as well. I don't think I died of laughter, but I still liked the characters, and I do think the comedy is still objectively done. It's well done. It's just not my type of humor, so I'm kind of in the middle of where I'm bouncing between. Oh, maybe. I'm maybe at a 5. I think is where I'm at.
Some hit, some didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
Is yours like a 1 or a
I'm
2?
resting on a 1.5.
Yeah.
yeah, I figured.
That was my
uh,
expectations picking this.
yeah, I assumed you wouldn't like the comedy after watching the Springs.
Yeah, as you said, it's using your own words. Not my cup of tea.
No.
But I was just curious on that
All
matter.
right.
So.
Yeah,
It was a good final question.
good final question.
We shall jump into our ratings and reviews, starting with
Yay!
Sprinks.
Oh boy, I gotta go first.
I know it's a rarity, kind of.
Yeah, let's see. I'll start with my objective. Is that a typical thing? Do I usually always start with my objective?
Yeah, usually you do.
Usually, okay. Like a
Yeah.
75, 25 thing?
If you want averages, you start with your objective more than your subjective. Crimson and I typically start with our subjective
Yeah.
before our objective. Yeah.
Okay. So objectively, I think the cinematography is fine. The really weird one was the Power Ranger Common Rider jump out the window marine thing. that was weird. Like the Dutch angle usage off the window. Um, I don't know. That really stood out to me as a different cinematography technique. Everything else was fine. My favorite shot, I think, is the lake when the sun's coming up through the forest. Um, it really has the 50-50 of the woods going to the lake, and then rule of thirds of the dock with the little bit of the, I don't know, the pebbles on the left versus the open water on the right. So that looked really good to me. That was my favorite. Lighting, a lot was actually fairly well done for a lot of nighttime shots. A lot of, I guess, natural lighting of just well, the daytime things, natural lighting. The artificial lighting, I think that was mostly used was when they're on like the path, like when they see the raccoon or bump into the car. I think that moonlighting's pretty artificial, and we don't have much of the headlights on the car. I think the raccoon, the headlights are even off when they do crash into the car and take off the um, uh, not rear mirror, but the wind uh, side mirror, whatever. I think the lights are on for that. Um, so lighting's all fine. The acting's okay. I, w- I could believe some of these actors. It's their first time in a film, um, and they portray their characters well enough. And I think that really helps with a teenage film. The awkwardness of discussion points, like having talks in that way. And I think it really helps fit for that. And I also believe that these actors are relatively close to the age of high schoolers and not actually like 40-year-olds playing high schoolers. Crimson, I feel like that's more of a question for you if you got the fact on that.
I did not look up their ages,
Okay,
but I agree they do look close to
to
teenagers.
their teenagers. Okay.
We've all had that experience of adults playing teenagers and it looking weird.
Yeah, I guess the only one you can go with that is fine not fitting is Kevin, because that's kind of the whole joke that he's not that age.
Yeah.
Um, so that's fine, I guess. The writing based on a book, I guess, helps. Definitely with the flow of conversations and pieces of the characters going. But to me, it also does it that works, but it does not line up to the pacing of the film. And I think the novelization, especially with the cabin bit at the end, we talked about would have been two separate chapters of conversations of what's going on rather than intertwined, which to me messed up the tone. So I think the pacing's not good from the serious bits to the comedic bits, and it feels like the serious bits are constantly overlined with the comedic bits. I found very little, if anything, funny. My favorite joke was the meta joke with Alan Ruck at the end, which isn't even, I think, designed for a joke. That could just be me reading into it. I think it was too thick and laid on the whole gay thing with Rich. I think it was too much. It got to the point where it actually started frustrating me towards the end. I think like either the middle or right after the towel whipping thing. I'm like, it's too much of this whole movie is focused on that for his character. Um, I think my favorite thing I can give this film is their makeup department of the continuity of keeping up with the marks that everyone has. So the marks of Denis with the thorns in his face, or the quote unquote cow bite that Denis has on his neck, and keeping that throughout the film. I think those are really good. Um, but overall, I mean, it has more good for a film, I guess, than bad in that instance. So objectively, I give it a 6.5. Subjectively, it probably would have been safe for me to look up my past scores of stuff, which I did not do. I probably should have. But my last note I have in my notes says Dennis can probably smell the shit this movie is. Uh, so I have it at a 3. Um, it's not one I think I'd go out of my way to watch again, probably ever. There's elements of it that feel worse for it is. I mean, Ryder, you brought up the loss of translation and before we go, the thing for the end, but I think the whole party bit felt like Weird Science to me, but worse. Um, an under kind of feel of this movie that felt way worse to me was, does anyone know of a movie where it's in high school It's traumatic about like an outcast character. Their kind of best friend is also gay. Um, it's about it has love of a character. Anyone finding any connecting the dots to anything like that? A film that came out
Sounds
in
like a lot of
2012.
teen films. Yeah.
This film to me felt like a way worse version of Perks of Being a Wallflower. That's how I
I
kind of
feel
took
like they're pretty
that.
different.
Their plots are very different, but I think the overall character thing. I mean, yes, a lot of people were like they're absolutely not alike, but others I think could maybe see what I'm seeing of the little tidbits of examples I'm giving.
In broad strokes, sure, I
Yeah.
can see it.
So I
I
kind of
mean, the original intention behind it was to make a parody of all of that, right?
But yeah,
But they ended up falling into all of the tropes, which is very funny.
yeah.
okay. So that's how I came out of this film at the end. I'm like, this
Hmm.
is a worse version of that. Uh, so yeah, that's where I have it at a 3, and I'm unsure if that's where I put Death at a Funeral. I think I have Mars Needs
Yeah,
Moms
yeah.
at a 2.5.
Death at a Funeral was 3.5. I know
Okay,
that one.
okay, that's fine. Left Behind, I don't know. That might be a 3. This might be on par with
I
that.
think you gave a 4 on
That's a
that one.
4.
You
Okay,
didn't
that's still
you didn't
fine.
have problems with that?
That's still
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I don't know what else I gave a 3 to match it, but I'm sure it's matchable.
I
So,
think Jurassic Dominion you might
oh,
have
Dominion was a 3.
think.
Sure, yeah, on par.
All right.
If that's a match, then that makes sense.
Okie dokie. I will say that is where I expected your subjective to be. I had no idea where your objective would be, but that is right where I was expecting. We'll go to writer.
All right. I'll get the usual stuff out of the way. My notes are unorganized, so I'll do my best to not make this horribly rambly. But uh, subjective. I didn't like the first half of this film. I thought I was in it for a stinker. To be honest with you. But I think there was some thematic elements that started elevating the film for me. Um, I realized at some point I actually liked the characters. It was just I didn't like the humor that was really dragging down the first half hour. Um, so by the end, I was resting on a subjective 6. Despite how high that is, I still probably wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, but I did enjoy the film. Um, but I would recommend it to people who enjoy these kinds of movies because I think it was good. It was passable. I think. Um, as for my objective, uh, the plot is more well constructed than I initially thought. Having thought about the film and talking about it here, I think Crimson brought it up. They actually do a good job of making sure the villains don't show up out of the blue. There's a quick explanation to exemplify why they show up at each place. Um, I let's see. Uh, losing my brain train of thought again. So the other thing in the plot is that Beth Cooper showing up at the party with the boys is also well described. She has a plethora of reasons to be there. And it's typically very hard to do uh popular girl and nerd romance well, especially in a short amount of time. And I think this movie does a good job of that sort of aspect in the plot of their romance. It doesn't feel rushed; it felt earned. Um, and a lot of the plot is just reactionary. They're trying to escape the Marines, or they're also trying to have fun. And those two mix together for an interesting night. Um, The world building is pretty simple. It's our world with a distinct lack of police presence is probably the only noticeable thing about the world building. Um, Other than that, it's very easy to get right because it's our world. So all of our rules would apply typically. I guess that goes to the characters. I'll start with the Marines because I kind of grouped them all together, but really, it's just Kevin. He's pretty macho man aggressive most of the time. However, he has a clear respect for authority, which is established by him not killing Dennis on school grounds because the principal asked him not to. um, he has equally bad friends. He would be a horrible person to live next to, judging by the flight of the Valkyries he's blasting on his car speakers in the neighborhood. Um, he also has various reasons to cheat on Beth, or Valley was just another one of his girlfriends, as Springs put it. So there's multiple reasons to why he was kissing her. Um, I thought he was just being sexist, but I think that at the start of the film, but that kind of moved into him just being disrespectful by the end. Um, Beth describes him as someone who used to be very nice, and then obviously that was something he either grew out of or it was just not applicable to him. Uh, Overall, I think Kevin's a serviceable antagonist. He's not innately like inherently evil, I guess would be the word for it. It's just he's very human, antagonistic, evil, wants to be a dick to Dennis because Dennis embarrassed him in front of the whole school, and he's a macho man and he can't take that well. Uh, Crimson and I had nothing but adoration for the parents. Uh, I'm still on that boat. The parents are capable of giving their kids space, but they're also realistic. They're like, yeah, we know it's a party. Just drink wine in moderation. It's a celebration, but I'm gonna obviously, even though you're underage, you can drink tonight, which is very thing reasonable parents do. Typically, they spoiler alert. If you when you grow up, your parents will allow you to have alcohol. Typically, even if you're underage, but obviously under supervision. That's the best way to do it. Um, uh, Dad tells about the condoms, or party balloons. Uh, the mother is very doting what little scenes we have of her, but she also is struggling with the fact that her baby's grown up. Um, I find it weird they didn't teach their son how to open the wine bottles. I think they would know that given how out of touch their son is. But again, I don't really blame them for that. I still think that's their good characterization overall. I feel like they would have overlooked that anyway. Uh, they also don't get horribly irrationally angry when the kids fuck up their lawn, knock the mirror off their car. They're very toned down about it because they're very chill people. And obviously Dennis is still getting punished, but it's within reason because it's worth it. And like, while the mom worries about the whole situation, the dad is still very chill about the whole thing and understands that they still need to meet out punishment, but that's still there. So parents, really well done, love them. Um, I didn't really keep notes on Beth's friends because they're side characters pretty much, and Rich has more time than they do. But I'll group the two of them really quickly to sum up what I think of them. I think they're well constructed as archetypes, and when those archetypes start changing at the end of the film and turns them into more characters than caricatures, I quite like it. It's a very subtle change that didn't need to be there, but I appreciated it. Um, so they eventually kind of grow beyond a little bit their side character status at the end, and it helps with Rich as well because Rich has his own story going on. Rich's character traits are pretty much he is not gay, but he's clearly on the spectrum, and that's he's in denial about it. He has a bad father, can't really take a hint. One of the things that I thought was amusing is he's defending his best friend to his parents by insulting his best friend, and so he's not. Well, he's more aware of social cues than Dennis is. I sometimes he's not. I found that a little bit inconsistent. Um, he's because he's bad at reading a room at the start of the film, and then by the end he's much better at it. Um, he gives into peer pressure, which is fine as a character trait, but it doesn't really cost him much outside of his losing his shoes. Um, and yeah, I think Rich is a really well established character, and I'm kind of in over the whole gay joke thing. I think they do it well enough to where it's not offensive. Though I will say the repetitiveness can possibly be a bit much, but I guess that's a subjective thing, I suppose. Um, and then we got Beth. She's a lot of Beth's character could be described as she's celebrating the end to what was her favorite part of her life. She's trying to let that aspect. She's struggling with letting it go. Um, she still worries over Kevin through a majority of the film, even though she's spending most of her time with Dennis, which shows that she is a good person at heart. Um, she's quick on her feet with thinking. She doesn't have plans after high school, um, which kind of helped me to craft a theory that is not necessarily in the film, but I still like the theory. Um, I think she's otherwise. I think she's very well written as a character. She's very slow at sort of accepting. She kind of just looks at Dennis like he's full of nonsense for the first half of the film, but you can slowly see her perception of Dennis change over the course of the film in the same way that Dennis's perception of her changes. And I think that's part of what makes their romance very good. I quite like it. Um, and I'll move on to the last man, Dennis Cooperman. Dennis Cooperman is your typical nerd valedictorian uh, character. Has everything going for him in terms of academics, but obviously he sacrificed being a high schooler, like going out and partying and stuff like that, as he says in the story. So a lot of the story is about him coming out of shell and also understanding who Beth Cooper is as a person, like properly. So he's not just having a crush on her; he's getting to know her for real. Um, and I think he's a very well-rounded character. He's got a lot of plans for after high school. He realized how much he actually enjoys the chaotic night that he had with Beth, even though there are times where he got angry and bitter. Ultimately, I still think it's an experience he appreciated and walked away enjoying. Uh, he doesn't have great timing with his jokes. He's very nervous and awkward most of the time, and he helped Greg uh, incidentally with his valedictorian speech. So even that has a place in the film, even though we discussed the potential awkwardness around that. So objectively, I'm at a 7. It's well, see now that I said it, I think I'm actually gonna be a 6.5. Um, it's in the average zone for me, objectively, and there are some things I think they clearly could have done to elevate this from being okay and a passable movie to being a great film, which is why I think it's higher than a 6 for me. But I'm at a 6.5 objectively.
Okie dokie. I shall go next. I will do my standard start with subjective. It did change on my viewing of the movie, not through the podcast, because as I mentioned, I've seen it before, and I gave it a 4.5 the first time I watched it. Watching it the second time, it went up to a 5. I subjectively like this 5. Uh, it's a movie I can see me watching probably one more time in my life. Probably not more than that. Because I do like the dynamics between Dennis and Beth, and I guess the group as a whole is okay for it. Like I said, I gave the humor like 5.5 or 6, so it's not miserable to sit through and the whole time like I imagine it was for Springs with the 3 rating and the 1.5 comedy rating. So yeah, solid 5. Objectively, this one was difficult for me because I feel like there's not a lot wrong with it. There's just a lot of like average mediocre, which makes it a little bit more difficult for me. I didn't think about the police thing being an issue, but Spring's bringing it up. It should have been an issue with the public driving stuff. That should have been an aspect. Kevin not getting any closure for the story, I think, is an issue. There is an explanation because the studio cut that ending, which I'm excited to hear Spring's thoughts on that, possibly in the recap. We'll see. So I feel like that's one of the biggest issues in terms of writing is the antagonist didn't get an ending. He just disappears. He's an afterthought. He's gone. And then Kevin was also kind of inconsistent to me with regards to his seriousness. Every single scene he's in with Denis, he's like in kill mode. He wants to take him out, but it ends up being playing with food. At least that's how we have to assume it, because he's not actually taking him out. But the way he's being acted or portrayed doesn't feel like he's playing with his food. It's just goofy, like the nunchuck bit or the towels. It's goofy. He doesn't look like he's having fun with the towels. It's just like, gotta take him out with the towels. It just seemed inconsistent, the toying and the seriousness of his motives. Greg, I brought up the issue of his integration, I think, was poor, but I do think he is not cuttable. I think he is somewhat necessary just due to his Kevin fight. And then the continuity stuff with the towels that I brought up is an issue. It's not huge, but it's present. I think that all the character interactions were acceptable with our main group. Anyways, yeah. So overall, I didn't find many issues that would heavily impact my scale. So I was hovering around a 7 and 7.5. I think I've landed on a 7. That would be it. I love you, Beth Cooper. We did it.
We
Man, we're
made
all
it.
objectively close.
Yeah. Like I said, and to be clear, I'm still jumping between a 7 and a 6.5 because I'm usually a 7 I reserve for like the best of an average film. And whereas here a lot of it was just passable, but there was a lot of things that could have made it great, which is why it's not a 7 in my book. It's kind of why I'm still jumping between the two, but I'm still like gonna keep it at a 6.5 for now.
I was pondering it over, and I think something that would make this great is if the opening monologue, when Denis is telling like what he thinks people are, the only one he specifically points out is Kevin. Everything else is kind of up in the air, even though the camera focuses on who he's talking about. It would be interesting if what he's saying is connected to a different character the camera's on.
Oh, to play a joke later on.
Yeah, that
Like so,
what he's saying is correct, but it doesn't line up to who we see the cameras on.
that would be a funny joke because Denis looks at someone specifically like he thinks he's talking about them, and then some complete stranger that he doesn't even know comes up later on.
Well, I don't just mean a
That'd be a funny joke.
stranger. I mean someone the camera is focused on. Like, what if Kevin was gay, but he thinks it's Rich?
Oh, you mean like so they're playing with the idea that they
Yeah.
all have each other's flaws?
Like the one who's like parents don't love, he says is like the bully, but what if that's actually the snooty, preppy girl who throws the party?
Interesting. That would be cool and be a nice subversion. I don't know if that would make it great by itself, but it would definitely add something to the layer of comedy or lessons to be learned from the film.
I think it would help strengthen him not fully knowing Beth.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
Could be. I'm just
throwing it out there.
I mean,
All right.
he's watched her for years.
Yeah, it's true. Well, gentlemen, if that's all, shall I read us out?
I think so.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, audience, for listening wherever you are, whether it be Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, iHeartRadio, and Samsung. And if you are on our YouTube or Rumble side of things, enjoying our visual side of things, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe everywhere. As always, I have been a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.